checking this out. This is obviously for you and going to be a really informative, educational thing for you, so I'm excited for you guys more than anything. I want to first acknowledge Dia Taylor for helping me organize this wonderful thing, so let's give Dia a big hand. Dia is a prolific, very young, talented, ambitious woman who is just so impressive on so many levels and knows everybody in Melbourne. So I'm privileged and grateful that not only do I know her and I've gotten to work with her a few times, but that she would be so generous to help me organize this panel of feature filmmakers. Making a feature film is, as everybody up here knows, probably one of the most difficult things that you can possibly do. It's a lonely journey. It is a rewarding one, hopefully.
Not financially. We're in the wrong industry for
that. It takes a lot of audacity to make a feature film. It really does. Yeah, and to that I commend you. It's a noble and ambitious thing because as a creative artist, you can't help yourself but to make it. And that's where you guys come in, where we can't make films without actors. And that director-to-actor relationship is so pivotal and important. And I'm so sick of hearing myself talk. I know you guys are sick of hearing me talk. So to bring up 5 filmmakers here tonight to hear it from them and to learn from them is a real privilege and something I'm really excited to do. So thank you again, Dia, for bringing this together. We all know and love you very much. I want to introduce all the filmmakers and show a quick trailer of theirs so you get a sense of their work. And then we're just going to open it up to some moderated questions. And then I'll also have this kind of be interactive from question to question, where if anybody's dying to raise their hand, just go for it. And then we'll hopefully keep things moving. And yeah, then we'll just hang out and have a nice rest of the night. Okay, so let's just refresh everybody one more time. Everybody just want to say your names and the name of your films. Sascha, will you kick us off?
Sascha, Karner, CCTV Nasty. Sorry, did you want any more information?
No, just reintroduce yourself. Just
okay, yeah, no,
get everybody's names.
I directed CCTV Nasty.
I'm Dia Taylor. I directed Married Problems, Jet, and Disconnected.
Saara, Lamberg. What you saw was The Lies We Tell Ourselves, which was my 3rd feature.
I'm Sebastian Bertoli. I directed We Will Never Die in post-production. I showed my little horror short trailer.
I'm Andrew Walsh. I wrote and directed How Deep Is the Ocean.
Awesome. Let's everybody give them a big warm welcome. And thank you guys for being here. It's just being proactive is so important to me, and it's a recipe for success. And you can't just wait for things to happen or expect to be lucky. You got to go out and get it. And just getting as much information as you can to further your education is such a big part of what we do here. So kudos to you guys for being here. Thank you. I want to just give a quick overview. I want to talk about as much as we can, from the audition process to the working on set process to what makes directors tick. A big part of what I wanted to do tonight was show just exactly what the variety you're going to expect to have when you're working with different directors, and how you should lean into that and appreciate that. I think what's so exciting about being an actor is you really never know what's going to happen between the other actors and the singular vision of a director that you're there to serve. And whether a director's super loose and open to what you guys can bring to somebody that's trying to be surgical and exacting their vision, it's all great, it's all fun, it's all different, and there's no good, bad, right, wrong. It's just, it is what it is, and if it works, it works. And I find that whenever you get to work with a different director on different scales and different levels, it's exciting, and it's up to you guys, and it's part of your job to be open to that process. And I'm constantly giving examples in class about different things that I've experienced myself as an actor and a filmmaker, to what you should expect, and I'm always trying to throw different styles of directing at you, because I think everything works depending on the material, depending on the situation, even from film to film, where like I said, I made a film that was exactly about executing my vision, and then I was immediately like, I don't want to do that again right now. I need to have some fun, and I want to see what I know so many talented actors. I said this from the table here, and I was like, I am so exhausted. I just want you guys to invent, and make something amazing, and I'll take credit for it. So there's so many different styles that you can anticipate and be prepared and just embrace it. So I wanted to bring some of those perspectives from their mouths rather than mine, because I think that's a lot more valuable in getting your insights to all of that. And then whenever you guys have a burning question where you just have to raise your hand, go for it. As for the filmmakers, don't raise your hand, just start talking. But let's get it kicked off, shall we? All right. First one I have up here is just, if we could run down the line, who are some of the most influential filmmakers to you that maybe you modeled yourself after or influenced you in some way, shape, or form. If you want to give us a quick rundown, we'll start at the end and come this way. Sascha?
All right. I remember when I first. In high school, I wasn't really particularly interested in film. I was very creative. I was very sort of imaginative, and it was in like year 11 or 12. I did a short film course, and that somewhat changed the course of my life. It seems. Prior to that, I was like all set on getting into physics and science and technology, and it was like such a drastic change that my parents actually called the parents of the young man that got me into the film course and said, your son has to fuck off, he's ruining our son's life. But yeah, at that time I discovered Stanley Kubrick, I discovered Hayao Miyazaki. I made a short film. I got into film school. There I learned about Wong Kar-wai in The Mood for Love. I started watching classic films. Then after you start making films, when you're like really deeply absorbed in the filmmaking process, kind of you stop watching films a little bit. You lose films as an avenue of relaxation because it's just stress. But I remember one thing that I found really useful. I queued up and bought all the DVDs of, and where I couldn't acquire a copy, I downloaded illegal torrents of everything that Akira Kurosawa ever made, and watched that chronologically from his earliest film to his last film. And that was so eye-opening because you could see how someone who is seen as like infallible master was kind of a little bit shit in places at the beginning, and over time grew and discovered things, and then would improve upon those in the next films. Otherwise, I'd recommend Tarkovsky, Andrei Tarkovsky, and Ozu. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Dia?
When I was younger, I wanted to be a novelist, and I remember my father said to me that you won't make money doing that, so I went into film. For some dumb reason. Yeah.
Let's make more money, I think.
Yeah. So, thanks, Dad. But no, so I got into film through my aunt. So she was a filmmaker. Mostly a short film she brought me on. And I sort of fell in love with film through her. She'd bring me on as like an assistant or a second AD or a babysitter sometimes, where I get paid in chocolate. For a 12-year-old, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Not anymore though, unfortunately. I guess the filmmakers that kind of inspired me, apart from my aunt, would be when I was younger, I was in love with Baz Luhrmann. So especially Moulin Rouge. I remember I used to watch that film on repeat. And then as I got older, I guess I fell in love with Tom Hooper, who before that one film, he was great. Like The King's Speech, The Damned United, Red Dust, Les Mis is my all-time favorite film. So I've watched all of his films, and just the way he tells stories, I just love. And also his color grading or lack thereof, I always really loved. Apart from him, Flora Sigismondi is fantastic. She did The Runaways. And then recently I've been really into Mike Flanagan, especially his horror series, fantastic. Especially like, probably not so much The Midnight Club, but Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass, and The Fall of the House of Usher are fantastic. If you haven't seen them, watch them. They are absolutely amazing. And now I hear he's working again with Stephen King, so that's me.
Thank you. Miss Saara.
Awesome. I guess I resonate mainly with like deadpan comedy and quirky art house films. I haven't found a director that I'd like all of their films, which is sort of quite reassuring because it means that I'm also allowed to make a shit film. But some of my favourites would have to be like Happiness by Totsa Longs, favourite Australian Beautiful Cave by Rachel Ward. It's not a deadpan comedy at all. It's a very dark drama, so I've just completely went against myself there, so that's good. What else is there? Who directed Being John Malkovich?
Spike Jones.
If you haven't seen it, see it. I almost like everything by Yorgos Lanthimos, but not quite. And my work sometimes gets compared with David Lynch, which is mad. Because I think I've only seen Mulholland Drive, which is fantastic by the way, but I haven't seen a lot of it. But I try and go to, like, there's lots of, Zealous is an Australian film that you can't see anywhere, and I was just lucky that I went to a Q&A screening. There's just so many beautiful independent films that will only get one screening in your local cinema. And if you miss it, you're never going to see it because they don't get distribution. So if you see a Q&A screening where you can meet the director as well, go for it, because that's your best networking tool. Sorry.
I was enjoying hearing that. So I like I'm going to pick up this eclectic baton and run with it. I like a whole bunch of different stuff for many different reasons. So Tchaikovsky is one of my faves. Really love Tchaikovsky's, like especially Stalker. Philosophical, metaphorical, all this sort of very slow shots. It's not for everyone. But I also like one of my favourite Australian filmmakers is Andrew Dominic. So obviously Chopper's his big one. Assassination of Jesse James with a Cow, Robert Ford is one of my favourite films. Hey? Killing Himself is pretty good too, yeah, but Assassination for me is his best. But I like those movies. They're slow, they're meditative. I also like other movies that aren't necessarily as high art, like like giallo movies. I like movies like Suspiria or Red, Profondo Rosso, Deep Red. Like these movies they're not great, but they're really fucking fun. Are they though? What they're so beautiful, you can't put them down. They're just movies that get under my skin, and then I kind of break them down the dialogue and the stories. I go, what is good? And I'm like, I just keep thinking about them. Yeah. The images just stay with me. So anyway, so it's sort of Dario Argento stuff. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't bash him, but I think it's wonderful, and I think I like Nicholas Refn Wending a lot as well. Not his main, but I like Pusher. I like Only God Forgives was one of the reference films for a feature that's made. So it's like hyper violent, very very stylized and surreal. I like all that kind of weird stuff that just sort of sticks under your skin. That maybe not all of it makes sense, but it kind of stays. Kind of like Lynch. Some stuff you like. I don't really understand what just happened. But I can't stop thinking about it. So that's the kind of stuff.
Just be like, oh my God.
Yeah, like a Razorhead.
Maybe that was it.
That's very. I don't know. It kind of reaches in and just kind of grabs me. So I like a whole bunch of different stuff. And then Lynn Ramsey, I really like as well. She did a wonderful film with Joaquin Phoenix a few years ago called You Were Never Really Here, which is, if you like Joker, it's that film done that way. I think it's just saying, similar things, but I think it's a tremendous film. And also, of course, what was it, Tilda Swinton film she did? Tilda Swinton.
It's all about Kevin?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So she did some really amazing film, Scottish filmmaker. She's great.
It's a great date film.
It's yeah. Especially about to have kids, yeah, it's great. It's a great new parent film. So I like lots of stuff. What do you like, Andrew? Who do you like? I'll keep talking. Mr. Walsh.
Well, I'm going to stop right here and say I'm 30 years of age and I've created a cardinal sin and I've actually seen anything by David Lynch. I've seen bits and pieces, so I get a sense of what that's all about. But no, I started me at the age of 16, just before I dropped out of high school. I had a science and environment teacher who was pretty radical to the left. So, and I was in the class for all the fuck-ups, because I was a fuck-up. Who wasn't? So anyway, everyone else in the normal classes learned at Australian history what a hero Captain Cook was. We're watching Apocalypse Now, to learn about American foreign policy. And no one got it, but I fucking loved it. But here's the thing though, I will never be able to recreate Ride of the Valkyries by Coppola, I don't have that brain. But what I did discover was the obscure indie stuff as I was getting a little bit older. It's a great film called Henry Full by Hal Hartley. On the Edge by the guy who did the Once musical. An Italian film called Over Zodo. I can't pronounce the director's name, it's Italian, but it's beautiful. And the time core that put all these together was, I felt like the first time, as I said, I was a fuck up. I was a complete fuck up, and I felt like my future was just being an even bigger fuck up. But the people in these films, they were also in my situation, they were disenfranchised, they were alienated. They had a voice, so I thought, wow, if they have a voice, that means I can create, and then I can have my own voice. So I've always been doing that ever since. But yeah, I've got a lot to learn. I've not seen one Kurosawa film. I saw Stellaris by Tarkovsky. I've not seen every Kubrick film. So I'm a student of cinema.
Yes. That's great that you said that. Being a student of cinema is so pivotal.
19 years on, I'm still trying to learn.
I was forced to start thinking critically about watching films when I was 17, and I haven't been able to turn my brain off since. For me, you know, so much of it was categorical, where I could see what some filmmakers were so good at, and I was so intrigued by it. You know, for example, you know, love him or hate him, he's not a great person, but before any of this went down, Woody Allen's key for dialogue and his witty humor in every film immediately grabbed me. I'm like, what an amazing writer Woody Allen is. And I just was obsessed with how snappy and funny and punchy his dialogue was, and every minute I'm laughing. And then stylistically, you know, just being of the MTV generation in the 90s, David Fincher directed like 90 music videos. Yeah. And it like defined my teenage years before he ever directed a feature film. And he's made some of my favorite feature films of all time, and every one of his films are so cool to watch and just stylistically just awesome and engaging. And he's one of my favorite filmmakers. And then, you know, on a pure entertainment value level, like the Shaw Brothers Kung Fu cinema that I grew up watching, I'm just like, none of this makes sense. This isn't good cinema, but I can't turn my face away from the screen because this is awesome to watch on a purely entertaining level. To, you know, The Message, when I got a little bit older, you know, Los Angeles, which I hadn't lived in yet, the LA riots and Rodney King and the O.J. Simpson trial and everything going on in Los Angeles, it was drawing me to it. It was such a hotspot from the hip-hop culture. John Singleton's Boys of the Hood and Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. The power of cinema as a teenager, I was just like, this is not just about entertainment and laughing and rom-coms and cool shit. There's something greater to cinema that's eclipsing the news for me. I don't want to watch the news. It's bumming me out. I want to watch this film, and my ingestion of the social message of it all. People like John Singleton and Spike Lee were huge influences on me, all the way to the variety of Rob Reiner, who's made some of my favorite films of all time. And he blew my mind because he made films from When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, Spinal Tap, A Few Good Men, Misery. And when I realized that the same filmmaker made these plethora of films across so many different genres that were so different, I was like, wow, this guy can do it all. That blew my mind too. And it made me realize, like, oh, you don't have to like do one thing. Rob Reiner's doing everything, and that blew my mind. And so those are some of the ones off the top of my head. It just was all, you know, either categorical or in Rob Reiner's case, he could do everything. Stuff like that sort of blew my mind, and it just made me realize the power of how much art and film can have over people that is beyond real life, and at times eclipses it. So yeah, thank you guys for sharing all that. Let's jump right into it. Let's start at the beginning with auditioning. Oh boy, audition. We're gonna start here.
I love all of your faces just
Yeah.
It's all about faces. So like, oh.
And this is just open. This is just open for you guys to jump in whenever you feel like. You can share some horror stories, some success stories, common do's and don'ts. What I want to frame it with this: what makes it? I mean, you're hearing the same scene over and over and over that either you've written or you are really familiar with. What are some examples of what makes actors stand out?
When they dress for the part. Guaranteed. Okay. I have cast actors. I remember from Marital Problems, for the role of Emily, we were down to 2 actresses. They were both equally good. We couldn't decide, but one of them dressed for the part. And we were like, well, that shows dedication. She actually looked into the character. She read the costume details. She showed up. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
So, all right. Prior to CCTV Nasty, just taking it back, I worked for a company called ClickView, and we do edutainment, like videos for secondary schools. Some of the stuff was like licensed by ABC, and that would mean that I got into that, and all of a sudden I was doing a lot of auditions. And prior to that, I hadn't really done many auditions. And I just want to say, when I started first doing auditions, there was that sense for me as well of imposter syndrome. So I would walk into the audition and I would see like 3 or 4 actors that had arrived early, waiting on the couch to see me, and I'd be like, oh fuck, I'm gonna fuck this up. They're gonna know that like I shouldn't be here. And then I would get them in, and then I would like ask them to do. Normally, for me, an audition starts with cold read, and I listen to their interpretation, and that is really important. When I'm listening to an audition, I want to hear your interpretation, because the script, a film, is a live property. It's if I had all of the answers, then fuck, I would play all the roles myself, and I've considered it, but it isn't. And so just like when you're going location scouting, you're looking for locations that inspire you and stir your emotions. When you hear people read, you want to. It's like you've served a lob over, and you want someone to hit it back, and you want to start to play, and you want to like get inspired and sort of feel that energy. And then once you've heard that, then once you've heard like their ideas, their interpretation, you'll if you've done as a director any preparation for the auditions, you will have created notes and thoughts on what where you wanted it to be, and so you'll start to offer suggestions on what the character can be. And often they're not actually in line with where the character ultimately would be. They're just to see like your range. They're just to see like how far away from your initial interpretation you can go, while still being in the realm of being relatable. Because at the end of the day, everything a script is generally like a whole lot of fantasy and bullshit, and you're looking.
Well said.
With little nuggets of truths sprinkled in there, and you are looking for like those truths to come to the surface. And when I look at someone that I'm auditioning, I'm looking for someone to like bring up those truths that I thought were in there, or find truths that I haven't even considered yet.
Anybody else?
I'd say that doing your research is a good idea about the director that you're going to be seeing. Even if you're only seeing a casting director, still try and get familiarized with the past work of the director. Of course, harder if it's a first-time director. For me, what really makes a difference in any interaction, be it audition or a date, is connection. Like and like everyone loves talking about themselves. So asking people questions rather than just being in your actor's mind and completely and utterly inside of your brain, trying to concentrate on the other person. And again, if you've seen their work before, then it's that much easier because you've got something to talk about automatically. And for independent filmmakers, that all of us here are, correct me if I'm wrong, I think something that really helps is that if an actor can bring something else with them apart from their acting, so offering other skills such as driving, catering, whatever it is that you might be able to do in the production, or even just ask in the audition situation, like, is there anything else you could see me doing, or any other things that you might need help with. And that would absolutely raise my interest towards an actor if they can see themselves as a part of a bigger, because like as independent filmmakers, we're there to deliver a story, and everyone has to pitch in various different ways. And I don't think I've worked with many actors that have been only actors. They've all taken on different roles as well, which I don't know, when I was an actor before I started directing, for me that was a great learning tool, and that's what helped me become a director. So if you've got aspirations of also getting past being an actor, maybe getting into directing something yourself, do all sorts of things on the set, not just acting.
I should mention too, if you get rejected in an audition as well, it's not the end of the world. So for example, I remember I was auditioning for this other feature I was shooting, it wasn't mine, and an actress came in and she blew me away. She was fantastic, but the director didn't think she was right for the part. So I'm like, okay, cool. Then Disconnected comes around and I called her up, I'm like, hey, do you want a role? She's like, do you want me to audition? I'm like, you already have.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep that in mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny with that stuff because I've actually had access. Sorry,
No.
yeah, because I've had actors come in to read for a certain role, and you know, on paper it makes sense that that's what they would be good for. But I'll be inspired and kind of go, do you know what? Yeah, can I get you to read for another role? And I'll try that sometimes as well. And I'm not doing it. I genuinely am not doing it just to like fuck with you or to kind of put you through the paces. Like I will sometimes see something in you and be like, hang on a second, or in the act, and go, hang on, I just thought of something. And so, for example, with the feature, we had a guy come in and audition for a cop role, and he looks like a mafia guy. He looks like he's like an Italian, Southern Italian looking guy. He plays lots of mobsters or cops, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I will soon.
Oh. And, he came and read for it, and he was actually wonderful. But what it came down to was configuration. Configuration wasn't quite correct. We just didn't quite. It was to do with matching with someone who already cast, and we're like, what are we going to do here? I want this actor involved. He's really got something. And then I asked him to come in again to the second time to read for another role, and he's like, oh, I don't really play for those kind of roles. It's like a dead dad sensitive kind of like good guy. I'm like, no, I reckon you got it. And he's like, I played mobsters. I'm like, no, I know you played mobsters, but you're not a mobster. Like I know that gentleness exists under that exterior, and that's what I think is interesting. And he was wonderful, even though he was still on set being like, I don't know if this is the right, if you made the right choice. It's okay, sure. So I think, yeah, I mean, like, I hope he's happy with his experience with it, because he was actually wonderful, and I knew he would be. I knew he was right for the project. I just had to do a bit of a reshuffle. But he was curious, and with both roles, he was curious about not just those scenes. He was curious about the world outside of that scene. You know, knowing your characters live beyond those audition pages, and he would bring his own experience and ideas to it as well. And that's really interesting when actors do that kind of personalized stuff, and you kind of go, oh yeah, great. You're not just trying to come in and be like, is it what you wanted? It's like, well, what I want is someone who's going to breathe life into this character. That's what I want. I want someone who's going to breathe life into it. And if that means that life looks like Sascha was saying, maybe looks slightly different to what I thought initially, that's okay. That's fine. Like, surprise us, yeah. We want you to get the role. Like, we want you to walk in and fix that problem of not having solved that role.
Absolutely.
And like, yeah, and just because you don't get that one, that doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, if you have there's a connection, you make an impression, people will remember, for sure.
Hopefully for this gentleman, you actually opened up his mind as to what his...
We'll see. I hope so. I know I'm right.
This is my typecast. I'm in this box.
But it's fun. But a lot of you will be like that. A lot of the time, unfortunately, casting directors may see that. And, you know, in a very commercial sense, that might be true. But in film and independent film, we get to kind of change that kind of stuff because we normally are fronting a lot of the money ourselves. Or we have a lot more creative freedom, which you don't get on when there's more money involved. And stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of it's a fun space to play in. Fun and scrappy.
Fun, scrappy.
Fun and scrappy, yeah. Andrew?
That's my entire career right there, fun, scrappy.
There you go.
Yeah, alright, from a director's point of view, my priority is just to make it as laid back and formal as humanly possible. You know, you want to collaborate, you don't want to do a job interview.
Yeah.
Now, once you put people at ease and they can be vulnerable, once they're vulnerable, and then they can really come at this with everything they got. And it is exciting when you write something, for a year, and then someone hits it in a quite different way you never even thought of. That's the actor you want to work with. And like I was saying, with How Deep Is the Ocean, it was a different kind of formula. So we had the characters of Chris Cochran and Olivia Fildes. They're two dysfunctional housemates like John Voight and Dustin Hoffman in Midnight Cowboy. That was my role model for the odd couple dynamic. So the scene is, Eleanor, played by Olivia, has been in Melbourne for 24 hours. She's already lost her first job. She comes home dejected, she's got a 6-pack of beer. Chris Cochran's character is an alcoholic who's hungover, doesn't have any beer. I said, Chris, you want that beer. And you're going to do whatever you have to do to get that beer. And it just started going on and on. Chris first going, yeah, look, I know how you feel. I used to do stand-up comedy. People will like that. Have difficult customers and whatnot. But you keep swinging it back to, how about swinging like one of those my way? She's like, no, I paid for these. These are mine. And he's like, but I'll deduct it from your rent. And Olivia's like, you're going to deduct one price of beer from my fucking rent. I did not anticipate that at all. So after that, I was like, they're in.
I've shared this a little bit with some of you guys already, but before I ever set foot in an audition room, I worked at ABC Casting in New York City, which was one of the most valuable educations I ever had, and gave me that confidence and insight to what this whole thing was about. Watching auditions all day long from 10 to 6. And the thing that kind of stood out to me that I remember from that almost 30 years ago, was that there would always be like a top 3 or more, where the casting directors and the directors would be absolutely confident that anybody could do this role. They're like, yeah, they'd be great for it. We're in good hands. And like you said before, like you just want your problem solved. You just want to be able to go home and be like, yeah, we got somebody. Now I have to worry about tomorrow. They just want to tick that box and move on. But what kind of kept happening was, between like the top 3 choices that they were maybe at odds with, they would say, you know what, this character needs to be super dangerous, and that person just exuded the most danger, or that person exuded the most sexiness, and this character has to be a siren, super sexy. Whatever it may be, if that person carried the essence of that character through and through, it worked. Now that's not a hard and fast rule. There's been auditions where I was just like, I totally blew that, sorry! And next thing I know, I get a phone call, I'm like, they gave you the role. I was like, what? I tanked that audition. Are you kidding me? So there's always contradictions to this whole thing. But being able to just exude an essence and a persona for that given role, that's what I talk about a lot, because we're multifaceted people. That's why we want to play everything. We don't just want to be typecast. We don't just want to do one thing. We're multidimensional people. So to be able to bring that on any given day, I've given a lot of examples over the years of what that's like. I have that Lenny Kravitz story of how I had this huge agent in Hollywood that I was so nervous to meet, and I for some reason wore khakis and a button-up shirt and my glasses. And I just sat there and I was just like, hi, I'm James, nice to meet you. And over the next 9 months, they sent me on 3 auditions for 3 computer nerds. And I was like, fuck them, they suck, they're the worst. And my agent was like, yeah, we'll get you a new agent. And then I realized it was a camera op for a Lenny Kravitz interview. And he just melted on the couch and became his rock star self. And I was like, what is happening right now? And I had to lower my tripod to film him. And I was like, that's a rock star right there. He had buttons on his shirt, didn't button one of them. He had 8 scarves. Like, I don't know what was happening. But then I had another interview for an agent, and I was like, I'm going to Lenny Kravitz the shit out of this interview. And I went into that interview, and I was like, what's up? And I wore my motorcycle jacket and spiked my hair up, and I was with them for 15 years. And then they referred me to my Australian agent, and it was like, yeah, that's me too. I'm not being fake. I brought the wrong persona into the room.
Not always a computer nerd.
Exactly. But it was totally my fault, and I totally took responsibility for that. But it was an example of like, I've been auditioning for how long now, and I didn't bring that correct persona into the room. So much of that has to do with that. I appreciate what Dia said about dressing for the part, but that's not always, that's very true for commercials, I think. I have gotten on the other end of that spectrum where I auditioned for the last Rambo movie in like a full army jacket, and they were like, what are you doing here? It was kind of embarrassing. But feel it out.
Somebody's got to go for a big swing.
Yeah.
Right? They remembered
Exactly.
you. Remember that fuck with the jacket? tell a whole story quickly, or is that?
Well, I was working on my biceps a lot that day, I wanted to show them all.
Can I tell a whole story?
We don't spend a whole lot of time with this, but if anybody has any stories of examples, when you hear the same scene over and over and over, there's what you've got in your head versus what actors bring to the table, which sometimes, you know, I know that directors are either like, oh, they nailed it, and other times directors are like, huh, never thought of it that way. That's so interesting, and that surprises you. Does anybody have anything they can share about that experience, about something that might have surprised you, or somebody that just nailed it?
I wrote a role. Sorry.
No, there you go.
Wrote a role for German actor, and saw a heap of different nationalities for it, including some Germans, and a French actor did a best audition. So I went back and rewrote the part.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the value of like working with a writer director, that they can do those changes.
That's amazing.
Otherwise, you might not be able to.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was actually auditioning recently for a short film, like about 2 months ago, and I shortlisted these like 7 actresses. 4 didn't show up,
Wow.
but the three that did, the one who I had the least amount of faith in got the role, and she got it because she just took the character in a completely different direction. I had in my mind the look of this character, how she would act, how she would speak, and this actor Cassidy comes in and she sits down and straight away she's in character instantly, and the character is something I didn't even think about that this character would be like. She just brought this whole dynamic, and she was auditioning with my other lead at the time, and I spoke to him later. I'm like, what did you think of her? And he's like, yeah, we bounced back a lot, and because of that, now the short film that I'm making it's going to be very different to what I originally had in mind, but sometimes that works for the best. Like, I'm all for collaboration. I don't think a film is my film, because it's not. Like, it's everyone's. The DOP has a different version of the story, the production designer, the fucking AD. And yeah, actors definitely, they all bring in their own interpretation of the film, and I love that because it's better than if I just made it completely myself. It's something that is organic, and yeah.
Anybody have any examples of really bold, unexpected actor choices that might have taken you by surprise?
I don't know if this was bold. It was just brutally honest. So I was auditioning for one of the leads in CCTV Nasty, and I had one woman who couldn't actually audition, but she sent through a tape, and I watched that and I'm like, wow, she's brilliant. I'm going to like cast her. But you like set a whole bunch of auditions with other people, and you still see everyone that like you've agreed to have an audition with. And then I had another lady who came in, Tina, and
I saw her in the trailer.
yes, and so Tina was like very nervous and very lovely, and she'd done one feature before, and she'd like come dressed in costume, and for me, like I've had people that like come dressed in costume, you're like, okay, like this kind of works, and then you have other people that like just have gone too overboard, and you're like, this is kind of getting into the realm of a gimmick, and you're relying on like this prop to try and convince me, opposed to a like something more genuine. But Tina came in, and she quickly started to read, and what I noticed was her read was so much more genuine and raw than anything I'd heard previously, even more so above the other actress. And I later found, and like this is like a little bit of like, this doesn't kind of sway you, but like she was tearing up during the auditions, and she would later tell me like, oh well, like this particular scene, this is something I can really relate with. It was about a mother pining over a lost daughter, and she's like, I've got a daughter, and I've had I've like had a rocky relationship with family, and so yeah, this was something that could really resonate, and just I guess like the whole package would kind of swayed me, and just yeah. Everything Tina did just sort of screamed Jax, the character. She even pulled out her teeth. She had a false teeth. She's like, I can go toothless. I'm like, no, you don't have to.
I want to ask one more question about auditions. I know for me, you know, I go sort of line by line as specific as I can. I try to micro-analyze sometimes each moment and script analyze it as deeply as possible. And I've had a few different directors in Australia in the few years I've been here actually say to me on day one, like, I cast you because of the way you said that line. And I try not to get too deep into like how do I say this line, because that's sort of the antithesis of what I teach here about doing a line reading, because it sounds funny in your head, so I'm going to do the way it sounds. So there's this sort of dichotomy and contradiction between the approach to the work, but also taking a minute to just kind of think about, well, all right, how can I make the best actor choice here? And I've had directors say to me, the way you did that line, nobody did it that way, and it stood out. What are some things that maybe you can share with us in terms of like how to skirt that line with, am I being organic and truthful in this moment, or am I just trying to be clever and interesting here and stand out from the crowd? Does anybody have any experiences with that?
I feel like that's the biggest pitfall. If you're trying to like perfect every single line and break it all down, it is true that like you are going through the audition tapes, and if it's close between two people, you kind of get down to like particular lines. But I think that what it really comes down to is like the honesty, and if you're being honest and genuine, then you might despite yourself, you might say something in a particular way that like you weren't even like intending to say it. I think like when someone kind of gets lost in the moment and really kind of just becomes a character, that's really interesting for me.
Yeah, it's tricky. So my background is as an actor. I still act it's funny because I'm not exactly sure as to the exact style you teach. Everyone has a different way of teaching acting, obviously, and obviously you've been exposed, all of you, probably to different styles of acting. I mean, that detailed preparation analysis stuff is tremendously important, but I mean, that kind of like, the finishing layer is to then just go and let it go. And you can see when the scaffolding's still up, and that's tricky. It's tricky to kind of break through. And so sometimes when I have that with actors come in and you can see the work, it's tricky. Then that's when I'll sort of maybe do like an improvisation, or maybe trying to do something like, can we start with the moment before this, or can you continue the scene after it finishes, to try and break them out of it, because it can be kind of tricky. But conversely, you can definitely see it when actors haven't done the work. I mean, absolutely, they haven't done the work and they come in and they're kind of like approximating stuff. It's tricky. So I think that like the most foundational, the most like fundamental training that I did that changed the way I looked at acting. I was a very heady actor. I acted from the eyebrows up only. And with drama school, I must have done some terrible work. And then I I lived in Vancouver for 4 years, and I studied with a woman who studied with Sanford Meisner, so it's a Meisner training. And for me, it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it changed everything, because all you really have is the actor opposite you. And yeah, in an audition, it can be tough, because maybe you only have a reader, and maybe that reader isn't an actor, but they are a human being, right? And so yeah, while you may not have an incredible acting part, you have a human being there. And so living in that imaginary circumstance, fully committing to that and reacting to what's happening in front of you is really what it's about. And that's all informed by that analysis and all that sort of textual stuff, but it's like throwing that away and just being present is for me when I kind of go, oh, I trust this actor, I trust them with this role.
Yeah. I would say that you can come in with your own interpretation and create, learn your lines, do all that. But at the end of the day, I have to be able to direct you. So I think that would be the most important thing for me, that you can leave all your preparation behind and just listen to me and deliver it in the way that I ask you to in the audition. And I think the best way is just do any exercise before you go to an audition to relax yourself. Whatever exercise is your chosen, just go out and do it just before you walk into the room. You end up walking in so much more relaxed and more open to suggestion.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I share a story here that, I had an ex that we did 12 years of audition prepping together, and a couple of years ago, I got an audition, and there was a really funny line that I was like, oh, I know how to do this. I have such a clever idea in my head. And, I have a rule where, like, I don't do more than 3 self-tape takes, because if you're not ready to hit record, then you're not prepared. So treat it like a real audition in the room. But we do the first take. She goes, all right, do it again. I do it again. And then she just cuts it. She goes, why are you saying that line like that? This is after 12 years of helping each other. And I was like, because it's funny that way. And she just said, stop it. And after enough time, that sort of feedback, it's valuable. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And then I just threw that idea away, and I just did it in the moment. And then I watched all 3 takes back, and I was like, mud in my face. And this is literally 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, I'm going to send that 3rd take and that 3rd take only. And they cast me off that 3rd take. And, it's important to be able to get that feedback and be humble. And to if you have somebody that's knowledgeable enough and knows you well enough to give you feedback, you got to be open to that feedback. And I just threw away my clever idea, and I sent that 3rd take that didn't have my clever idea that I was so excited to execute. And they cast me off that tape. But just being able to throw it away, like you said, it's so valuable, and to be truthful. It's all about being truthful.
It might be great, but it might not be what the director wants.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, they're like, what's happening?
I want to give everybody a chance to answer this as deeply as you'd like. It's about the rehearsal process. So you get the role, fantastic. Directors have so many different styles. Some directors are so spontaneous and want to discover it on the day, right before they hit record on the camera. And other directors are meticulous. For example, Ridley Scott is he was an illustrator. He storyboards everything. To like Werner Herzog, who famously said, "Storyboards are for cowards." Or even Steven Spielberg, who's like, I am in fear until we rehearse right before we shoot, because I'm finally on set and I see the actors and I see the props and I see the set and it's all there, and now we're going to discover it together right before we shoot, and that's the most exciting time. So whether you're Ridley Scott or Steven Spielberg, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Directors have such a huge array of preparation and exacting a vision, how much rehearsal they do, versus let's discover it on the spot. Nanji, you were saying you were really open to discovering it on the spot. I've done both, but I want everybody to have a chance to open discussion about what your style is and what works for you and how you like to prepare, how meticulous you are with shot lists, storyboards, exacting a vision, versus being willing to rely on the actor to like, show me what you got. That's exciting too, of just like directors that are just like, I don't know, you tell me. So there's a huge spectrum here to tackle. Everybody just share where you're at, because that to me is the most exciting part of being an actor and not knowing what you're going to get out of the director.
Okay, just for the record, I didn't show up on the set and point out saying, show me what you got! Show me what you got right now or else!
Every day you did that every day.
No, I didn't. No, it's much more laid back than that.
But like each of you, I want to hear from everybody about how much preparation you want to have versus how much spontaneity you want to have.
Sure, so for my process, obviously Olivia plays Eleanor, carries the entire film. She's in every single frame of the film. So we would just hang out a lot actually. We wouldn't start to rehearse, but just hang out a lot, talk about the character. Maybe try to rationalise why she's doing some of the things she's doing, saying kind of things she's saying. Relationship patterns, dynamics, things like that. And then, on another way, for example, in the trailer, you've got Olivia doing a swig of scotch with Simone Uller. They didn't meet until half an hour before they started shooting like a real job interview. So they didn't know how they were going to work together, how they clash together. And that was more a positive rather than negative. And most of the actors' relationships were like that. Most of them didn't meet each other until the day. We just gave them a quick backstory, tried a few scenarios, just threw a few lines, but they're all open to the process. As long as you're open to the process, it can be done.
So you really rely heavily on what an actor has to bring to the table on the day.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else? I
I'd
want to hear
say-
from everybody on this.
Yeah, I'd say that my biggest rehearsal is in the audition, and that's where I do my biggest work of making sure that you already know how to play the part the way, and on top of that, that you can take my direction. Because if you can take my direction at the audition, then you will be able to take my direction on the set. And it really just depends on the size of the role and your experience, and of course the nature of the role. So for my feature films, I've usually only done rehearsals with the lead characters. If you have a smaller role that comes in for a day or a couple of days, you probably won't get a rehearsal. That's then me relying on my casting ability, that I'll know how to cast the right person, and you need a rehearsal. Of course, you're welcome to go and do your own rehearsals or at your own time. But say for example, for my first feature film, the lead character is a chainsaw carver. So I would take him to a house of a real chainsaw carver. We'd learn chainsaw carving skills with him. So it was more, and then also observe a chainsaw carver at work and their kind of their characteristics and how they carry themselves, and so it was more of an observation for the actor to be with a real chainsaw carver. Second feature film, leading character was his first feature, so I knew I needed to do more rehearsals. Plus, it was a really challenging part of a son who falls in love with his own biological mother. So there was quite a lot of rehearsing that went into that. Yes, it just depends on the size of the role, the kind of a role it is. Always different, yeah.
It is. It depends on the role. It depends on the project. But I really like what you said, Saara, about like the audition being the first rehearsal. Like it's true, and it's like you kind of like when I'm watching actors audition in some part of my brain, because I've got lots of things in my brain. I'm like thinking logistics, I'm thinking configuration. I'm putting them next to each other with the other actors, being like, oh, does that work? And I'm also going, there's this parallel universe where we take this with this actor and go all the way, do I want to hang out with this actor for a couple of months?
How many times have I said that? How many times have I said that?
Like, and I don't mean that, listen, some people aren't going to gel. Sometimes when this is not going to happen, you want to get along with me, I'm not going to get along with you.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. But it's like I'm going to put so much trust in that actor to carry this role, especially lead roles. So I need to know that, and it's not so much that it's incredibly rare to be like, wow, that person was awful, I do not want to hang out with them. Although it does happen. It's more like most of the time you're like, oh yeah, they were great. Then occasionally you're like, oh wow, we just really clicked. It's normally more that, so don't only get, and you have no control over it. It's completely, it is a randomized chance thing. It just so happens. But it is, and then again, so it's like, great, we get along, that's awesome. Now, I'm going to take direction. How are their offers? How are their instincts? Have they thought about the character? Also, then it sort of goes, layers and layers. But as far as rehearsal goes, it depends. Like lead kind of roles that have more than less than like 4 days on roll, 3 days on set, probably not going to rehearse it. But anything more than that, absolutely. And it depends. The rehearsals depend on what the role is. Sometimes for kids, we had a couple of kids in the film, and it was important to just improvise them, just have them to hang out with the parent, and to just hang out and do stuff. And we had to get a couple of assets because we needed some family photos for this film. So we were I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to work with kids. I have children, but I don't know how to work with child actors. It's a new thing. At work, they're working, they're 6, and they're doing a job, Anyway, it was really interesting. And I was like, so what do? I need to take these photos of this guy with his daughter. And so then I was like, oh wait, I just get him to do things. So I'm wandering around. I actually went to RIT campus. I worked there, and I was like, we're going to play this gigantic chess set. I'm like, do you know how to play chess? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, can you guys play chess? Can you teach us some tips? And I got them to do that, and I'm like, great. We took our photos of the family sort of stuff. And then I realized it was going, I'm like, oh wait, this is rehearsing right now. We're doing the rehearsing. Because it was kind of at the end, or I think it was before we were going to rehearse some of the, kind of talk about backstory, kind of feel through some scenes a little bit. But then I was like, wait. I was doing it all along. So sometimes there's some serendipitous sort of stuff where you set up, we set, directors, we set up a scenario, and sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's unintentional, and it becomes like you're actually building things just by hanging out. Just by hanging out and building a connection, getting together kind of common references and ideas and things you're both into. I also did an improvised short once, and we built the script like a Mike Lee style. We built the script from rehearsals. Now, we did that, then I went away and kind of worked out what I wanted in all the scenes, then we came back once we sort of so we basically self-devised it, like a self-devised theatre piece. Then we came back and rehearsed those scenes like a play. And then so when we'd play them out again on set, we improvised everything, but we knew all the dot points. You knew the key lines, you knew a couple of moments. That was like a 20-minute short. It was like 100 hours of rehearsal. So that was a very intensive but unique process. Whereas with the feature, we rehearsed as much as we could. We would go through scenes, but try not to kind of like, to run them to death. We sort of, it was more about actually building moments before, moments after, and fleshing out dynamics, talking about their story and backstory, and then exploring it. You're going, well, let's get it up. And what happens if you do get it when she first, when she does miss her 18th birthday, and then there's the morning after she comes, mum comes home, and then the daughter's there, and what happened? What's the conversation like? So we did stuff like that. So yeah, it's a big answer because there's so many different styles for different kind of questions. But I mean, I'm a very actor-centric kind of director, so I will play a lot with actors as much as I can honestly get them in the room. So I'll rehearse as much as we can, but I won't always be running the scene to death. It's not like theatre in the same kind of way where you're working up to performance. It's for me, I'm trying to capture something impulsive and immediate on set, so I try not to run it too much. Maybe I'll feel some blocking out, especially if it's intimacy or violent. Like fight stuff, of course, that has to be done. It's a different. That's actually much more technical than it is, another sort of, kind of thing. Yeah.
It also does depend on the actor as well.
Sure.
So, like I definitely changed depending on the film. So, Marital Problems, my first feature, we rehearsed for 9 months because it's very dialogue heavy. Which one of my leads knew the script off by heart after the first month. And then we get to shooting and another one of my leads goes, "Oh dear, what's my line again?" I'm like, "We've been doing this for 9 months." So it really does depend on the actor. Some actors I find work better with rehearsals. Others work better when they find it on the day. It really depends who you're working with. Saying that as well, if you rehearse, a lot can change on the day when you're shooting. So I often rehearse in a studio I work with, but then when we get to set, the DOP and I might be like, "Hey, I rehearsed it this way," and the DOP will be like, "Yeah, but that's not what we agreed to," or something like that. Seb knows. Or maybe our location pulled out last minute, and so all my rehearsals out the window, and oh god, we gotta change everything, and oh, the blocking is completely different, we have to make do. So it depends on every project and every actor. A friend of mine who's might have been a lead for me many times, he can memorize a script like that, but he hates rehearsals. He doesn't like them. He just likes to get in there, and he's the kind of actor where the first or second take are the best. Third take kind of loses it a little bit. But then you've got actors who their first take is fantastic, and actors who have to rehearse on set as well, and then their fifth take will be fantastic. So it depends. I like to rehearse at least once or twice just so I can see, okay, so this is the actor's interpretation. That's great. That's not quite what I'm seeing. So it's good to collaborate and be like, look, we're not quite on the same page here. Like Seb said as well, any fighting or blocking is great to rehearse. But yeah, I've always been the kind that does minimal rehearsals and then finds it on the day.
That's very generous. I was just trying to think, would I actually could I be bothered to be in the room with an actor who doesn't already know their lines or pretty much know their lines? Of course you can make some mistakes and then we'll do another take, but I wouldn't have your patience. I'm sorry.
After 9 months of rehearsals, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a technical work that an actor does on their own with a friend, or read your own lines to your phone and then rehearse with a phone, so that the actual rehearsal time we can concentrate on something other than learning lines.
Yes.
That makes me very cross.
Yeah, so rehearsals.
Work with her, not with me, obviously. She's much kinder.
Rehearsals is not the time where you memorize the script. So rehearsals, it really depends on the project. Rehearsals are an economic luxury. You do not rehearse most like independent films. You won't get rehearsals because that's not in the budget, and most bigger films like could be $1 million budget. Still, you don't have the budget to do the rehearsals because everyone wants to spend money that will be seen on screen, and rehearsals often the rationale is that it won't be seen. But it
Just madness.
yeah, of course. So if I'm thinking back to like comedy series stuff that I did for ClickView, often there were no rehearsals because we couldn't afford to pay the actors to come before the shoot. But you would like rehearse a couple times before you rolled, and for me, the rehearsals are only actually 50% about the actors. It's about getting the performance, but all of a sudden you've got as a director, you've got the consideration of the camera. So you're thinking, okay, I want Joe here, and I want Selena there. You're starting to like think about the blocking. The choreography becomes like front of mind, and then also there's all the other distractions and chaos that is happening on the set. Dia coming up and saying, "Oh yeah, this Doug is 20 minutes late," and Joe is like crashed into like a bunch of Coles trolleys. What are we going to do about that? They want money for the car. And so yeah, you're only 50% there. CCTV Nasty, I did a lot of rehearsals. So CCTV Nasty, I think we maybe did 10 days of rehearsals, and like the shoot itself was like 30 days. So that was a quarter of the shoot time was just meeting with the actors, and for me that was essential because CCTV Nasty doesn't have conventional coverage. A lot of the like you will film a scene and you'll be like, wow, I like the first half. From this angle, from like the over the shoulder, and then I like the second half from that. CCTV Nasty, because of the conceit of the always shooting in wide angle, didn't have that luxury, and so we had to take on more of a kind of theatre approach, and that meant that people had to hit their marks, and that like we had to work everything out logistically, and so yeah, that was a process. I would rock up and I would be like, the last time I'd seen the actor was during the audition, and I was like thinking, I like this and I like that, and I'd written down on the script like what I'd liked, and then I'd written down what I wanted to do, and then we'd do like kind of a read through, and we'd start to elaborate, like kind of concertina it out. You would do the read through, and you'd be like, okay, now this read through we're going to do it with blocking, and then the next read through, all right, we kind of got the blocking down. Let's like start to work on the characters and the dynamics, and it was kind of like a construction process till we actually got there. But yeah, rehearsals, they don't always happen. Sometimes you just have to like rock up and wing it and bring it.
Fantastic, thank you. I want to ask one more question. We'll take a 10-minute break before we jump into actual production and shooting take to take. Just to encapsulate what we just spoke about, we'll start with Andrew and run down the line. So just to encapsulate, are you all about spontaneity and openness, or are you all about exacting a vision and preparation? And also, how does that relate to how open you are to an actor's improvisational skills and being spontaneous in the moment with unexpected moments and things that can, how I think a lot of actors sometimes are fearful of straying from a script or doing something in the moment, and I want to have a quick little sort of encapsulation of that. So just reiterate where you're at with in terms of like exacting a surgical vision versus being open and loose, and how that relates to an actor's ability to be feeling that freedom of improv or spontaneous moments. Let's just run down the line.
That's a good question. Obviously, I favour spontaneity. I didn't always favour spontaneity, because I wrote and directed 5 short films prior to How Deep Is the Ocean, and I was like, this is my life's work. This is my blood on this script, alright? No one's changed the words because I say so. But back then I was a complete kid. Anyway, I went through that, and I went through a year where I stopped directing, like 4 years where I was just workshopping different scripts. I think I wrote 3 in that period, and then we got my friends, actors I didn't know, to just workshop it, and I found, wow, the stuff they come up with is actually better than what I've got here on the script. There's got to be some way to sustain this across an hour and 18 minutes, and there I am. So yeah, spontaneity, open-mindedness. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work. That's it.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It depends on the project. I mean, the last feature we made was a scripted feature, and we'd gone through a number of drafts. We'd done rehearsals on it as well, so we'd kind of knocked around a lot of ideas about line changes in those rehearsals. So when we got on set, it was pretty locked. And I would always want at least one usable take of the script. And I was open to some things being improvised, but because of the nature of that project, because it had been scripted in a number of drafts, because we felt very strongly about the script and about the way the dialogue flowed, and because we had rehearsals, I wasn't as open to straying too much from the script. And not in a reductive way, because I had deep conversations with the actors about everything, and we'd gone back and forward, emails, messages, voicemail about it, sort of lines. It was a discussion that we had been open, and things had been changed. So yeah, that was the nature of that. I think if we had had a looser script, or like an improvised film like I did before, absolutely, would be definitely open to it. But even so, it's about that. Then it's still about the actors being very much on board. It's my responsibility to make sure the cast is on board with the world we're building, the characters we're building, and what's authentic and true to the scene, to the objective of the scene. Because yeah, I mean, you could easily riff off into all kinds of directions, but then I look like a dickhead because I didn't keep my handle on the wheel. That is what it comes down to. It's not about trying to like stranglehold. It's my life's work. It's just being like, well, I've got to deliver this thing, and so I have to keep my hand on the wheel. So that's kind of that's I guess a kind of measured response when it comes to improvisation, to kind of going. And also depends. I'd love to do a comedy where there is that openness to have bits where we riff. That I think would be very fun. That wasn't this. It was a tense, tight, like crime thriller. So that was not the kind of movie for that. But I would love to. I think it was. I mean, yes, the times when I've let actors go fly, it is very, very fun, especially with comedy. So, yeah. So looking forward to doing more improvisation and spontaneity in the future.
So first 2 films, Innuendo and Westermark Effect, were scripted. The Lies We Tell Ourselves that you saw a trailer of, Coma that you've got a postcard for, are both completely improvised. So I guess I've done a little bit of both. When I work with scripted material though, I think it's an essential skill for an actor to be able to improvise. Again, one of those kind of that I expect from you is to be able to improvise, because I just think that's the openness, and that's when you can take direction if you can improvise. So quite often in an audition already, I might just make sure that you also have those skills to throw in improvisation exercises as well as the script that you come in prepared with. On a shoot, if I have the luxury of time, I would usually shoot a couple of times the way we've rehearsed or the way the script says, and then have another take where you just improvise based on, you already know the scene at that point very well with your own words. But on top of that, for me, it's very important that you always say the things the way you would say them. Mm-hmm. So even if I've written a script, I tell actors very early on to just change words, change the ways. If you wouldn't say something like it's in the script, change it. I'll tell you if what you changed it into is wrong, but usually it's not, because I would 100% prefer it to sound natural on my film than exactly how I wrote it. There's no point of us making a film exactly how I wrote it if it doesn't look good on the screen. So that's like, improvisation is always important, even in scripted material, for that openness reason. But yeah, I have been loving working with completely improvised films where I bring in scenarios and I tell actors more or less what's happening in the scene, and then they make up all their own dialogue. So yeah.
As an addendum to that, I think I'm the only non-writer director. Is that right? Because I didn't write the feature, I directed, so I didn't have as much of that ability to kind of go, you changed to make it sound natural for you.
Oh,
And-
screenwriters.
Yeah, my wife was also the lead, and so it was a bit of a different relationship. But so there's also that, and that's the best conversation you have early on with the director for sure, 100%. You don't get to set and then go, hey, I was thinking this, and they're like, oh, X-nay. Just talk to them about it. Say, hey, listen, how open? Just make it an open conversation. Because some people are like, yeah, change it how you say it, and I'll be like, that's written that way. I would like you to give it a go at that, like that.
It's interesting, yeah. So my first feature, Malware Problems, I directed and shadow produced that. I didn't write it. So my screenwriter was the executive producer, and he was on set every single day. So, and he wasn't the kind of screenwriter that would kill his darlings. So everything had to be verbatim. I'd have actors come up to me and be like, hey dear, I don't really like this line, can I change it? And then Julian would come up and be like, nope, it stays the way it is. And you'd have to, okay, he's paying everyone, I can't, you gotta say it the way it is.
It's a job,
yeah, try to make it work.
It's true with Shakespeare, it's true with David Mamet.
It's the job,
Sometimes that's the job.
Yeah.
So when I direct...
David Mamet. I know that now.
When I direct, I'm usually director, writer, and producer. So I have those three hats constantly going. I'm all for improv. I love it. I think it often comes out better. It's more natural when actors say things that feel right to them, rather than having to force a line that doesn't quite make sense to them. They don't quite understand it. But saying that though, as a producer, you've got to look at the time of the shoot. If every single take is improv, it just drains time, and time is money, and money is resources. And then when you get back into the editing suite, if every single shot is different, how are you going to cut it? But as a writer, you've also got to, if you improv, you also have to take note of the things that are important to the script, because a lot of times you'll have a line in a scene that is like foreboding something later on, and if you just skip that, there's that little line just gone. And it ruins it, which sucks. Which happens a lot with like day player actors, because they haven't read the full script. If they improv, then it's usually like, oh, please don't do that. So yeah, as a writer, I would say make sure you discuss with the director about what you want to improv, because it may affect the other scenes. As a director, I'm all for it. Go for it. Just discuss with me, and make sure that we're agreed. Film is a collaboration. If it feels normal to you, sweet. I don't want to force a line into your mouth that doesn't sound like normal human speech.
So, as an actor, you're thinking about the character more than I am, because I'm thinking about all of the characters. I'm thinking about also the lights and the set and all that. So I want to hear what you have to say. If you have ideas, I want to hear those ideas. But there is a time and a place. Not every time we button on and call, not every time we clap the slate and you're standing somewhere in frame. Not every shot is about you. Sometimes.
I think Sascha's had an experience.
Sometimes we're rolling to get something from someone else, and all we need you to do is to soft lob something to them so that they can respond. And if you throw something new if you throw a curveball and they miss, or it just like changes the dynamic of the scene, we're thinking about the entire construction, and it might not be appropriate. So I would say when is improvising appropriate? It's appropriate in like the first maybe 3 takes, and then as we start to get coverage, as we start to like do other things, then what we're really looking for is like consistency. So I was speaking with an actor friend of mine that does lots and lots of theatre, and he's marvelous at like hitting his marks and being consistent, and it was fantastic. And we were, as all creative types do, we were like sitting down for a coffee and lamenting the state of the industry. And commercial work has gone the way that like now casting directors are like, all right, we need a fireman. Like let's look at local fire stations and see like if we can find a real fireman to be on set, because they'll give us something authentic. And sure, they'll be like this gruff kind of person. They'll give you like probably for one shot like a genuine like look to the side or something, but what you guys have that they don't is you have like the stagecraft, and you know how to repeat things. And so a lot of acting is boring. Like a lot of acting is being outside. A lot of CCTV nasty was being outside in the cold, doing the same thing over and over, because there are many different elements at play. You're juggling, and so you might have hit your performance perfectly. Maybe someone else didn't quite, and you just have to do it again for them.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
So what it comes down to with improvisation or sticking to the script or any of those sort of things is like what we're doing as directors and what you're doing as an actor is you're serving the story. So if it doesn't serve the story, if it doesn't serve the scene, if you don't understand the purpose of the shot or your device, even if you're a day player, you're coming in and you understand the device that you have, but if the director doesn't explain it to you, ask them, what is the point of my character? Like when James came in, we said, the point of your character is that this is the time we see with Toy, with the grandmother character, when she's not with the main characters, and she's kind of has this unique relationship that is a little insight into her world, and we see at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film, and that's it. And so we kind of explain like I don't think I even gave you the whole script to read, but
You said it was a bookend.
I contextualize it and kind of to understand what they look like and what
That made perfect sense to me.
Yeah, you go, oh yeah, fair enough. I understand what device I have in the play, in the piece. I don't say device in any kind of like diminutive, reductive way. They're all devices. All the characters are devices to tell that story. And so understanding your place in it and how your duty to serve that story is what comes down to it. So when the improvisation becomes about you having a grand old time and enjoying yourself, that's great. But is it aligned with the story that we're trying to tell? That is our job. Our job is to tell that story, to bring it home. So that's kind of what it comes down to, I think. And but you I'm sure you talk about duty of the story and all that kind of stuff in what you teach. That's what it comes down to all the time. It's what it comes down for us to. And so if we are close to it, do not be offended. Sometimes it's because we've got a lot of things going on, and our job is to have that macro view and make sure to bring this thing home.
On just what Seb said, there's maybe a time and a place to improvise. There's always time for questions. If you have questions, that is the director's job, to answer everyone's questions. And look, maybe sometimes they don't immediately have the answer to the question. Maybe sometimes they've been doxxed and blue screening, and they're just like answering too many questions simultaneously. But look, if you have a question, it is always appropriate to answer it, and it's always the director's job to answer it.
Fantastic, thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute break, but for the next part, I just want to kind of cover what it's like to actually work on set, from a director working with an actor from take to take to take, and how that evolves, and it's very spontaneous on the day. And sometimes you're like, wow, nailed it. What else can I do? I have a little bit of time to oh my God, we gotta go. all the way to the edit process and how daunting that is, where you really don't know what you have until you're sitting in an edit room looking at the footage, and that's something that actors are not privy to. So getting an insight as to what directors are finding on the actual footage, and in this class we have our playback to watch where you get to see a little bit of an example every single week of what it is that you're actually putting on film, and you guys get to see in your own opinion what works. But I want to hear definitely from the directors of like what works for them, because for me as a director and an editor, what I often find is, you know, actors are kind of like, can I just do one more take? I didn't feel it. And then they do that one more take, and I'm like, that was the worst take of the day. And they're like, I felt so good about that take. And then I, you know, watch the footage. I'm like, I'm not using that take. I'm sorry. It's not up to you. So sort of discoveries that you're finding in the edit process, which is such a, you know, it's ultimately assembling that puzzle that nobody but the editor and the director get to see. You guys get to see the 28, 58 takes that end up on the cutting room floor, and you're making informed decisions about what is working moment to moment to moment. And it's not theater. You don't have to get it right from the first moment to the last moment. It's about assembling a bunch of pieces. So I want to hear about the edit process as well as the take process, as well as, you know, just sort of like, I don't know, just general fun do's and don'ts and fun horror stories and, you know, success stories as well of maybe it's something that you guys can pick up. But let's take 10, let's take a bathroom break, eat some cold pizza, and thank you guys. Awesome first time. Awesome. All right. So we've talked a little bit about the process leading up to things. I want to dive into something that's really about the homework process for actors and how different that could be for directors with script analysis. And you read a piece of material, you guys have an exact vision in your head the way that you naturally hear it. We talked a little bit about the spontaneity and what surprises you versus exacting a vision. You know, it's sort of a big guessing game for actors of like what is going on. When we get an audition, it's like a single log line or a synopsis, and we have to glean from that what are they looking for. I always say to actors, don't question what are they looking for. Bring strong, bold choices to the table. Analyze the script as much as you possibly can. Find your own creative choices. I want to ask you guys individually and hear from each of you about what that's like in terms of when you're surprised by something that was unexpected versus somebody that just nails it, and what kind of insight you can offer to the actors about what script analysis means to you, and what kind of nuggets you put out there of like, this is what we're looking for versus surprise me. And also, you know, I know this from myself as a filmmaker. Sometimes I'll have an idea and then somebody will come in and surprise me. I'm like, wow, that was awesome. Never saw that coming. That actor's interesting. I want to work with that. So it's all over the map. And I constantly talk about the contradictions of like, there's no exact science to this. It's an art. There's so much room for interpretation. That's why it's so important for you guys to just go out and commit and come out with gusto and come out with strong choices, but also understand the tone, not the mood, but the tone, and make bold, strong choices that are clear, specific, committed. I want to hear from you guys about what it means in terms of script analysis and what you're looking for, and things that might have surprised you or been like an absolute perfect example of like, that's what I'm looking for. So what can you tell us about that? Where's my turn?
Start from this side.
So you're talking about what we do when we analyze the script?
And then
what requires
what we
actors, or
what
comparing and contrasting from where you're at versus what the actors bring to the table. In terms of script analysis, you know, there's a certain crux of a scene or a turning point or a pivotal moment that they need to hit. In terms of script analysis, and you get a piece of material, it's literary, it's logical, it's analytical, and then translating that into performance.
So as like a writer, director, you know where you put the turning points, you know where like the scene moves to. So that's not something you're considering when you're adapting your own work. What you are doing with like script analysis as a director is very iterative. It's always like, all right, we're reading this scene, and then like, what's my first impression of like who this person is, what they want, and you write that down, and then you go through and you get to the end and you're like, actually that was wrong, and you like change this and change that. I think from like what I would love from actors, but like not necessarily would ever see it, is them thinking about their own characters, but also thinking about like other characters, who they are and how they would respond to this person or that person. Sure, it is like essential for an actor to like go through and like understand the scene, but like at the same time, the actor should never ever feel afraid to ask questions from the director at any point. Once you've been cast, then you should have their undivided attention to like ask them questions at all hours of the day and night. Well, look, you are serving their film, and I'm going to be real. When you're like making a feature film, particularly a independent feature film, your life just goes down the shitter. You don't, as a director, you don't have anything else going on. And so if an actor is coming to me with like real questions, then that is like great, particularly on set. That said, you might not immediately get an answer because you're somewhat overloaded as a director. But I think I'll pass it on.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. Don't ask me many questions, please. Look, I think the whole script analysis, when I'm writing something, it's very organic, and if I have to talk to you about it for hours, if you come to the audition maybe with one question about the backstory, that's fine. But if you want to get into a script analysis mood, I'm not going to cast you because I'm a lazy director, and I'm not going to have those conversations with you because I'm not very good at them. I'm good at doing the work, but I'm not very good at talking about it. So with me, like if you want to have those conversations, have them with someone who's extroverted like yourself, not with myself who's introverted. And like on set when we're filming something, I will tell you if what you do is wrong. If after every take you're like, was that okay? Did I do something wrong? Nothing will drive me crazier. Just deliver it. I'll tell you if what you're doing is not how I want you to do it. But if I don't say anything, I'm happy. We're clearly very different.
I'm a bit with you, Saara, in that I feel like the material in the script tells you everything you need to know. And if you're not spending enough time with that material, you gotta figure it out for yourself. And whenever somebody asks me a question, my first thought is like, yeah, I'm happy to answer it. However, it's right there in the material. If you thought about it and spent time with it enough, you would see it for yourself. That's just me.
Yeah, no, that's me as well. I mean, not that I'm not happy to answer your questions. I'll talk to you about it. But the fact is, like, your job is to know that script inside out. That's your job, and it's our job as well. We have to understand. Like when I shot the last feature, I cut up all the scenes and had cards on my wall. Was like a serial killer's wall.
Totally.
I knew all, so you look at it and kind of go, yep, cool, day, night, and looking at characters and looking at pacing and understanding like on a big macro level, and also reading the script, going through it. And like, I didn't read the script anywhere near as much as I wanted to as director because I had so many things to do. But when I'm acting something, and it is what I expect of actors, is that you're reading that every day. You're reading that script every day. When I used to do theatre, I'd go home and I would, after a bit on stage, done the whole play, I would go home and I'd read the play again. Just to kind of like, you see the variants, you see where things drift, you see where things, like, you should be an expert on that script, is what it comes down to. And I don't mean that in an onerous or kind of like, do your homework kind of way. It's part of the job, finding the joy in being curious and being in investigating and that sort of stuff, Now it's different if you have a couple of days on set. You know, you obviously live with a few. But I'm talking about like if you're a lead role, if you're in a role, or if you're in a shoot which goes over, you have a couple of days here, a couple of days here, then a month later, a couple of days there. You've got to stay in it. It's important to stay in it. Maybe you're not reading every day, but reading it multiple times from the beginning to the end, even the scenes that aren't yours. Yes, because you are part of a bigger organism. You are part of a bigger tapestry. Yeah, I mean, it is really important to me. So, like, when people are asking questions where the answer is there clearly in the script, you just read it. That frustrates me, and I'll be gracious about it. Be nice about it. But I'm like, yeah, it's very tricky. You know. Now, if you're asking questions that are ambiguous or that there are ambiguities you're looking to find out, yeah, sure, I'll engage with them. I'll you know, I want to answer Sascha. I'm gonna take 3 a.m. phone calls. Not all days of the night, but you drop me a voice message and I'll get onto that when I'm driving to set the next day or the day after because things get very busy. Absolutely, and I want to talk to you about that stuff. I really do. Because what happens in that frame is my responsibility. And if I don't see it, if I'm not watching it, I'm not fully aware. It's tricky. So I do want you to go in fully charged up and ready to go. But yeah, it is your job to be an expert in the script. Because I am. And we should be able to have that conversation where we both go, oh, and then if you come to me and go, hey, so I noticed this thing here and this thing here, and I might go, oh, God, I didn't notice that. That's awesome, yes, great. But if I'm referring to something, you're like, oh, which scene? And I'll be like, oh, okay, sure. It happens here, it happens here, it happens here. But yeah, come to the table with you. Do your homework.
I guess I kind of somewhat disagree. Not completely. So the past few scripts I've co-written with my partner. He's very analytical. He's much more analytical than me. Like, oh my God, so much so. I just brain fart and he's like, okay, dear, let's turn this into a story. But a film isn't just its plot. A film is its story, and what I mean by that is there's a whole world outside of what happens at the start of the film and the end. These characters that you create, they have a life of their own. There are things that happen to them before the plot, which is the start of the film, before that happens. And there are things that happen to them after and in between that a lot of the time we, as screenwriters and directors, leave out, which actors probably aren't going to pick up, which is stupid and annoying, I know. So what I like to do is, for my leads, I often have a coffee with them when they're cast to get to know them better as people if I haven't already, and I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, so tell me your interpretation of the character, and then I'll be like, okay, sweet, so this is their backstory, this is what has brought them to this is why they're making this decision. It's not in the script, but it is very important. So yeah, script analysis, I guess I do kind of in that meeting. I would say, yeah, definitely make sure you know the script front and back, even scenes that aren't yours, because every scene is there for a reason. With a novel, you can have scenes that last for 15 pages. Like in Les Miserables, Victor Hugo, for 2 chapters, talks about the Paris sewer system, which has nothing to do with the plot of the story. But with film, we can't do that. Everything has to be there for a reason. And so, yeah, it's your job as an actor to look at all that. But yeah, what I mean when I say I disagree is talk to the director or the screenwriter, because often there's a lot that's in between the lines as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just jump in. As a director, I wouldn't say I have any issue answering questions because I claim to know everything. It's just that, you know, when I write and when I'm writing, I see everything operatic. I see everything, I hear everything, I have a sense of precision. Like when we're in the post-production session, you know, I can tell exactly what shade of neon blue Eleanor has reflecting on her head as she walks into the club. Or the part where Roy falls down on the floor, I tell the sound, I know what kind of like thumping noise he makes as he hits. But going back to the writing, obviously my experience is a bit different from these guys. The biggest challenge I found was sometimes what works on paper does not work in real life. And you know, you're at Dia's house, got 2 cameras set up, time is money, we've got 2 hours to get this right. And we had this scene where Eleanor meets Chris Cochran, played by Roy, and she wants to move into this house because she's new in Melbourne. But my intention to that scene was, these are two guarded people that have signed to each other once. Eleanor wants the room, but Roy wants to have someone who's not a complete psycho. But they're both very guarded. They're asking questions, but they don't want to give too much away. But what happened was, I was just haggling over the price of rent for 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, guys, let's stop for a second, all right? Let's all have a 10-minute smoke break. Let's boil down. This isn't working. Maybe this is another direction we can sort of go into. Chris, what do you think of that? Can you do that? All right, let's do it. And also, another way we managed to do that was using a lot of wide shots as well. And rather than, the actors accommodating the camera, our cameras accommodate the actors, which also saves a lot of money and also gets more spontaneous performances out of it. But yes, I like answering questions. Lots of fun.
If anybody doesn't quite know what that means, does anybody want to jump in on that? What it means? That's a really good point you made about the camera accommodating the actor. Because I've talked about that in class about the wide shot versus the close up, and some things might be totally handheld, and you have a great camera operator that can accommodate that. And other times it might be a little bit more surgical. Anybody want to jump in on that?
I guess, yeah, so when directors and cinematographers are trying to work out a shot list, we've got blocking in our head, and often there's certain marks actors need to hit, especially when it comes to really tight shots or lighting, because lighting takes ages to set up. What Walsh is talking about there for How Deep is the Ocean, because it was all improv, we didn't have the luxury of planning shots as such, or blocking. We kind of just set up a camera and we set up a basic lighting system, and we told the actors to, this is the scene, we'll follow you, which is great for an actor. It's like theatre, but with more scripted films, it's a lot different because you want certain beats shown. So the actor has to kind of accommodate to the camera.
James, I think what you're trying to allude to is that, as the director, as the person who controls the camera and what we're looking at, we have actually an insane amount of power to make you look good or bad, or we can take I don't know, a wrinkled sort of expression while you think we're not rolling, and turn that into a profound reaction. And, we have all of the power to make you kind of look good or bad with various decisions. So it's not just you on the day. It's us making decisions about how you're lit, how the camera is moving around you, where you are placed in a frame, what you're surrounded with. If you're giving a I don't know, a heartfelt monologue by a lake as the sun sets, it will hit differently if you're sitting in an office cubicle or something like that. We have a lot of sway over how your performance, good or bad, will ultimately be received.
And on that, something I've observed in the best actors on my sets, they're the ones who don't chat with their co-actors in between takes. They're the ones that stand in their position where they're supposed to be and listen, because these conversations that he's talking about are happening in between the director and the DOP, for example. As an actor, they can get shitloads of information just by listening.
Yeah.
So when you're not chatting about what you had for dinner last night or what the footy results were, you can actually invest a lot in your own career by being quiet in that, being present in that moment, listening to everyone around you, because that will give you all the information about the next shot size and whether we're going to do it once or twice, whether we still have time. There's also conversations about time happening on set all the time. And then that will give you information about whether you have the luxury of doing this in different ways, or whether you just have to be very precise and do it exactly the way as we did before, just to follow continuity so that the director will get what they need. So just being present and quiet and concentrated, I'd say that after improvisation, that's your best skill, and being in time. Those are my 3 skills that I need for actors, in actors.
Thank
Yeah.
Something that is a trope in filmmaking is there's the saying that there's 3 films that you make. There's the film that you write, there's the film that you shoot, and there's the film that you edit. And those are 3 completely different films, and rarely do they end up being the same type of film. I mentioned before that to make a feature film at all requires a lot of audacity, and that's 100% true. As an acting teacher, I think it takes even more audacity to become an acting teacher, because what I find is the exact opposite for me. I started as an actor, I always wanted to direct, and the last thing I picked up was editing. But if I actually rack up the amount of man hours I've spent in my life, the most amount of man hours I've spent is editing. Second is directing. Last is actual acting on a set. So the editing process for a filmmaker is ultimately that last puzzle piece. And it's so daunting and it's so lonely. And it's that privilege that nobody ever gets to see but the director and the editor, maybe, and the assistant editor, but nobody gets to see what ends up on the cutting room floor. And I think it's so insightful and so informative and kind of like a secret weapon for actors to know, why did this take make it over that take? I want to ask you guys individually some examples of some of the best, some of the worst, anything that you have to offer in terms of what it's like to edit a film and what stood out for an actor, whether it's like, oh my God, I have 25 amazing takes, to, wow, I have to Frankenstein this horrible performance into something usable. Anything and everything in between, because I've experienced it all, and I've shared that with these guys, and so much of it is such a weird, specific film and television process that is film and TV, where you could do a pickup shot of like, all right, that was pretty good, I just need that one moment to land better, or I need that one line to hit harder, or any little specific thing that you can offer to our actors in terms of what it's like to be an editor, stitching together a final scene that maybe you can offer. Floor is yours.
As someone, I think we're all actually like in various stages of editing. But Andrew's just survived it. Editing will normally start off as like this hopeless, dismal place, and hopefully over time you slowly learn to fall in love again with the film that you've made. It is like, it can be pretty bleak because you're now faced with the realization of like everything you've strived to achieve being like only 60 or 70% there. So you go in day one and you put everything together and you're like, my God, what have I done? Why did I spend a deposit on a house on this? And then you start to watch everything, and I mean everything. You watch every single take, you watch them multiple times, you look at them from the perspective of one character, you look at them from the perspective of another character, then you take selects. You take probably like a couple of selects from one scene, or from like one angle or another angle, then you assemble it, and then you fine cut it. And so what you're then looking for is, unless you have a vested interest in like how the performance looks, like unless like you're cutting yourself, and even then, you don't really care about the performances and the individual performances anymore. Now you're looking about the story. You're looking to make sure that it works, that there's no snags, that people are getting caught on. You're looking, as a director, I think you're always kind of like trying to remember to look at it from the perspective of the audience, and then sitting in the edit suite, that's the closest you'll ever be. You're there, you're constructing it, and you are now watching it, and so you're watching it from the perspective of the audience, and so you're just trying to make this thing that flows seamlessly, that like works from shot to shot. And there's reasons why two shots might not go together, in spite of them both brilliantly acted. Like continuity fucks you up every single time. There will be, and it's like even as an actor, you're doing your blocking all right. Maybe you want to cut between like two shots, and in one you like just move your head like a little to the left, like 2 words too early, and all of a sudden they can't work, and so you have to find another solution, because it's kind of, the performance is important, but also not jarring the audience on continuity problems is equally important. And then you make everything look good and sound good with color grading and music, and your performance is elevated anyway. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
I would probably say a word of advice to actors, which I get a lot, which drives me crazy. I get a lot of actors messaging me going, "Can I have showreel footage from a feature that's still in post?" Do not do this.
Don't do that.
Do not. And I will tell you why. Number one, usually a film, distros like it when a film has not been released at all. If there's any bit of it that's been released, they're not going to touch it, which just means that if I've given you showreel footage, I've just lost thousands of dollars. Not fun. 2, which is affecting you as well, if the film's not done and I send you footage, that footage is not going to be graded. There's going to be no sound design, no music, no VFX. It's not going to look good. And if you put that on your showreel, it's not a good look. It's just not great. What I suggest is, if you want showreel footage, do student films. Short films are great. Short films, they can release footage to you because most short film distros don't really care. If you want,
turnaround too.
yeah, much faster, much faster.
And you guys have all made feature films, and you all started with short films.
Guaranteed.
So every time an actor comes in and they're like, "Oh, it's just a short film," I'm like, "No, take it seriously."
Yeah, shorts are so important, so important. And yeah, if you want short footage, student films, short films, wait till the trailer's released. Fantastic. Wait till the trailer's released. Share the trailer. Also, there's a lot of filmmakers out there, myself included, that shoot showreel scenes. Contact them. So much better. They'll give you a quick turnaround. I know you guys here do it as well. Showreel scenes are amazing. Yeah, so my word of advice is, don't ask for showreel footage from a feature film. Just do not do it, because then the director will remember you and they'll be like, "I don't want to work with this person again." In terms of editing, actually, funny story, he mentioned that we make 3 different films. So I am in post-production of Jet at the moment. We're close to picture lock, and picture lock means that we've got all the footage together and it looks like the story's there. And I say it's funny because we've actually redesigned the script almost completely in the edit. So from how we shot it, the script is now completely different.
Wow.
And it killed my editor and I to do this. But it just works better. So yeah, a lot of the times the film that gets edited isn't the film that you would specifically have acted in, if that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of times, like Sascha said, continuity is such a big thing, such a big thing. I've had scenes where an actor's hair changes or their movement alters, and I've had to get rid of a performance that I absolutely loved just because it makes no physical sense and it would be picked up, which sucks. So that's the main thing. Also background, if there's an extra in the background that's stuffing up and you have such a great performance, I'm not going to use that shot. It sucks. It really does, but it is what it is.
Sometimes you can fix those problems.
Sometimes.
Like if there's separation between you and like the background plate, then you can do things to save it during the online. But
it's rare.
Things like sky changing. If you're filming outdoors and like goes from like bright hard sun to like completely overcast. Well, it's hard to cut between those things, and so then you look for like, all right, what are all of the, I'm going to have to pick like a lighting style, and then I'm going to have to use all the takes of that particular lighting style so that the continuity works.
It's also not always an actor's fault. Sometimes it's a tech issue. Like I had a whole scene we shot. We had an 8-hour shoot to shoot this one scene. We backed up everything. Everything was great. I get to the edit suite and the sound files are completely corrupted. Yeah, so I had to do a whole ADR session, bring in all the actors. That was fun. So sometimes it's not an actor's fault.
Everybody knows what ADR is?
Yeah.
Additional dialogue. You have to re-record your lines in the booth.
It's
But-
your enemy. It's your
but
enemy to be feared.
It's funny because in the ADR session, the performances actually were better. So go through that.
Wow. I love editing. I find the edit part of the process maybe the most exciting. Beyond I think, obviously watching, performances come to life on the monitors, probably vying for top place. But I fucking love being edited. So I love seeing the stuff come together. I love seeing possibilities arise. I'm pretty meticulous about how I cast. So I don't really. Luckily, I've been in a fortunate position to not actually have to drop that much, like short takes because of like poor performance. I just have to kind of choose. I have to shape the performance, kind of work out what colours do I decide on to be able to move this scene forward, or what is necessary. And when sometimes it might feel like arbitrary to the actor, I'll know that I'm coming out of a scene which has been like bang, 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 and then all shot out of sequence, of course. I know it comes out of a scene, it's really hectic. I go back to my wall. I know that coming into this scene here, I need it to start slow and meditative. I need to be introverted. I need to be like a quiet and pensive moment. And if the actor's got this impulse to like, well, I want to come in and have them come in and be sort of excited, I'm like, yeah, but for me, I know that that's not going to serve the big picture. It's the kind of overarching, the rhythms and the pacing of the scene. So sometimes, and I can explain that, and I often try to be transparent about why to the actors. Depending on the type of actor they are, some actors don't enjoy technical conversations. They want to go from more emotional places. So I go, yeah, fair enough. So I go, yeah, you know what? No, they're having a sad day. They're having a really rough day, and I need you to sort of find it in the scene. Like, I'll find something to kind of, whatever sort of juices that actor up. You learn as you go along what actors respond to. Some actors you can tell them directly, I just need it slow. They need like 50% slow, and they're like, got it. And that works for them. You're on an 8 and a 4, fair enough. And some actors, that is completely arbitrary and means nothing to them. And so you go, okay, I need to think about a different way to approach that. Because when I'm watching to that monitor and when I'm shortlisting and when I'm reading it, honestly, reading the script, going over my script, I'm already editing in my brain. I'm already editing it. Because the edit is everything. The edit's where it comes together. That's like, as a director, I can be as brilliant as a genius as I want on set and have these amazing ideas. If it doesn't come together, it doesn't work. I don't have a film. So for me, I'm always thinking about how it's going to come together with performances, with shot choices. It's kind of everything. So I'm just excited to see it when it comes in. And yeah, definitely there are some moments where you're like, oh wow, that bit's not going to work. And hopefully it's not a true bit of performance, and hopefully it's not a whole character. Although I have dropped characters in films before, they've been my friends. And
that to me is such a big Venn diagram moment of like what a director requires for the edit and to piece together the full film versus what an actor has to bring to the table and their whole slew of ideas, and like where that intersects is such a Venn diagram of like what's actually going to end up in the final piece.
Yeah.
And it's such a tricky little thing because actors, you need them to come in with a huge slew of ideas, but your brain might be in such a different end of that spectrum that where that intersects is such a tricky little thing, and actors can't take that personally.
No, you really can't. Yeah.
100%.
You've got more? Or?
No, I'm pretty good.
I've got 2 ways in which you can help me. So as an actor, a little bit of what Sascha was saying about the blocking and continuity. I, for example, as a director, do like you bringing variety of performance in between different takes, and I will direct that. But if you keep your blocking very simple, you know when you raise your hand and which hand you raise, when do you walk, when you don't walk in relation to your lines, if your blocking is simple and you know it, then we can do variety of performance. And then that really helps me in the edit. So that's number one. Number two, particularly for independent films, probably mainstream films as well, marketing is something that's very important throughout the whole process. And given that post-production takes such a long time, it's really helpful for me as a director that whilst that post-production is happening, the momentum of the film promotion doesn't die. And that's where you can really help as an actor. Ask your director how you would like, or your producer, whoever your first point of contact is, if they would like you to help in promoting the film, and how they would like you promoting that film. Some directors, like myself, very happy with you, for example, posting behind the scenes pictures of yourself, anything that you took on set, but do check, because everyone's approach is different. But anything you can do in terms of spreading the word that this film is about to be released, even if you don't know when exactly, in that process of post-production that might spread out to months or years, just to try and keep that momentum going so the audience doesn't forget about your film, really helps.
And that's not going to cut into the footage not being released prior to the...
No, BTS is usually fine because it's not the actual film itself. But you need
But I
to
can ask,
check.
yeah, because every production is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate editing.
So do I. So do I.
I love writing, I love working with the actors, I love the process, I love being on set. It's all downhill from there for me.
I agree.
It's excruciatingly, it's boring, it's soul destroying, but it's part of the process. You know, I don't want to do it, but if I don't do it, 50 people depending on me are never going to see their work. So this goes back to sense of precision. I am brutal with editing. I'm absolutely brutal. Every single second has to count. If it doesn't count, there's no point in being there. And a lot of people are getting pretty frustrated with me. I'm like, I don't care. We are not taking any shortcuts here. No shortcuts. And yeah, I've got a few regrets. I mean, for example, we had a very low budget, so all the restaurant scenes and the bars had the same actors. We couldn't really afford to make them dress any differently. And there's also this party scene, and it's very clear there's this guy dancing to this music we put in post. And every time I just see that 2 seconds we couldn't cut, it's like, oh! But I think our biggest lesson, Dee will know all about this, was the final scene of How Deep Is the Ocean, ends at the train station, where the character moves on, the journey continues, and then the final shot is the train leaving. You've got me, you've got Dia, and you've got the boom operator very clearly in the window background. And we couldn't afford to reshoot it, so it took, how long did it take, Dia? What, 7-8 months?
6 months of my partner rotoscoping the crew out and painting the sky into a moving train. Yeah.
Oh,
And that was such a simple thing that we went over all our heads. We got everything else right except for that.
That was fun.
Just like they say, there's the movie you write, you have a vision. There's the movie you shoot, you get hit with surprises. Then there's the movie that you edit, where it's either a combination of like, oh, brilliant discovery, this is amazing, I love it, to that's not what I wanted at all, how do I piece this together and make it work? It's all over the map. With starting from scratch, there was a long journey for that, where I wrote a very sort of biographical film about a breakup that I just labored over for many years and eventually abandoned. And it was like, I can't do it. I've brought this as far as I can do. It's a story I want to tell, but it's just not going anywhere. Just forget about it. And I did. And for a year, I just dropped it and started writing other things. And then my life changed. And based on that life change, I was like, oh my God, I know how to write this story now. And I rewrote the whole thing from scratch, page 1 rewrite, in 2 days. After 4 years of just being tortured over this, there's something there. And then my whole life changed, and I rewrote the script in 48 hours. And my screenwriter program came up with like, do you want to save this document? Yes. And I had to rename it, and I just, without thinking, wrote Starting From Scratch as a moniker, because I was starting the whole script over from scratch. And then it occurred to me, I was like, that's a really good title. Of that 95-page screenplay, I copied and pasted one character because I was like, this is so brilliant, I'm so clever, oh my God, I'm such a good writer. And I copied and pasted one character that was based on truth. Everything else was embellished, everything else was exaggerated. I copied and pasted the one true story of my life of this ridiculous date that I had. I put that, it was the only scene I copied and pasted into the final draft. I shot the thing, I table read the thing, I edited the thing, I hit my final close to picture lock. I did a crew screening of like 5 people that I was like, I trust your opinion, I'm at my wit's end. This is as far as I can go, I need some feedback. I invited people from the crew to watch the film that I trusted and a couple other people that I was like, I just trust your opinion, I know you're a good filmmaker. Watch my film, I'm gonna throw up in the bathroom while you watch it. They watched it. A friend of mine said, a guy went to film school, just moved to Los Angeles, he's one of the best editors I know. Come and check out, I'm gonna invite him. I was like, please do. We watched it, we talked about it, and he said to me, yeah, I'm new in town, I'll do this for free. I see so much potential in your film, I have a lot of ideas. Great. So we talked, and he said, by the way, that Heidi Ho scene, funniest scene in the movie. I was like, I know, right? It's so funny. Oh my God. That's the only scene that's like verbatim of the truth. Oh my God, it's so funny. I copied and pasted that. This is so funny. This is my favorite character. I was like, me too. We get together on a Friday. We watch the film again. He goes, all right, I want you to do something for me. I want you to leave. He spends the next 4 hours while I just like left. And then I come back 4 hours later, and he's like, all right, I did some things, it's fresh in my mind, and I want you to watch it. I'll watch it with you because I haven't even seen it myself, but then don't talk to me until Monday. Just sit with it. So we watch the film, and then the film ends, and I'm like, he cut out that favorite character in that whole favorite scene. What the fuck? That whole like awesome, hilarious thing is not in the movie. And I sat with it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then by Monday, I was like, oh my God, he made the right choice. That hilarious character that was ripped from the truth is not in the movie anymore. There was a scene from Trainwreck with Amy Schumer. Paul Rudd was a date in Trainwreck. And this is unrelated, but a similar example. Paul Rudd had a role in Trainwreck. His whole first, second, third date with Amy Schumer in that movie, cut from the movie. He had no idea that guy was in the movie. It's Paul Rudd. By Monday, I called him and I was like, you were so right. It doesn't belong in the movie. It didn't work in the movie. It's hilarious, but it's not the same movie. And it just so happened to be the movie that I copied and pasted from my screenplay to this new draft. It didn't fit. Silver lining of this story is that the movie got to film festivals, it got picked up, I got a distribution deal, it was amazing. Once that all happened, I was like, that's a short film in and of itself. I put that on YouTube in its own deleted scene thing as a short film, Chinese High Five. It has 24 million views. It's the most watched thing I've ever made in my life. And it monetized my channel. It has 24 million views. And you know, it was its own thing. It didn't belong. And that's what I mean about there's the movie you write, there's the movie you shoot, there's the movie you edit. And it took an extra editor for me to bring on to discover that. And that was such a heartbreaking thing for me to call that actor. I was like, every single person, my crew, the people that watched the early cuts agreed, you were the funniest fucking thing in this whole movie. Oh my God, you crushed it. You were amazing. And you're cut from the movie. And then, of course, the silver lining is nobody's seen any of my work as much as that one isolated YouTube film that I just was like, this has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So why not? I'll cut it together. I'll make it its own thing. It's 24 million views. It's hilarious, but it didn't fit in my film. But I couldn't see that. A second editor had to come in and see that. All right, so thank you guys. I want to ask 2 more questions. First one has to do with take to take to take. I know this is a big, broad question. I know it's project dependent. I know all that, but I want to give our actors something they can sort of grasp onto that can be insightful to them. When we're working with actors, so much is dependent on what is the actor bringing to the table. From moment to moment, you could have a moment of, oh my God, they nailed it, and I have time. are we in a position of, let me really surgically exact my vision, or are we like, what else can you do with it? What are some experiences you guys might have had in terms of how far off of my vision can I go from take to take to take on the day to let me really hammer down exactly what I'm looking for? Everybody has different experiences with this. That's kind of how we run our acting classes here. Of like, I see something and I'm like, that was amazing. You nailed it. What else can we do? To, oh, we're so close. We're so close. I just need a pickup shot of this moment. Let me just, instead of doing the whole scene, let me do a pickup shot. Because that's the beauty of film. You just need a moment. If everything else was perfect except for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 lines, I might do a pickup shot. I just need to hammer that out. You're in an emotional state. You're exactly in the emotion. I just want to do a pickup shot because you're there. Let's go for it. Can you tell us about that process from take to take to take and what it's like in evolving on the day, surprises, discoveries, inspirational moments, what actors are doing in the moment, and how we go about evolving the actual process on the day? How do you work? How exacting are you? How open are you? Anybody?
I guess with me, when I make a film, when I direct a film, there are certain key scenes that have been with me for a long time, and they're the scenes that I have to have exactly how they are in my head. So in Jet, there's this one scene, actually the scene I had to ADR, which was great, which was my darling for so many years. Because I worked on the script for like 10 years before we shot it. And that was the main scene I wanted to focus on. So I remember we were shooting and I was so meticulous with the cast. I'm like, this is what the emotions behind it, this is what you're trying to accomplish, this is this. And they gave like inputs and gave ideas, and I was like, normally I would be okay with this, but this scene is my darling, I can't. Whereas other scenes, there's one of my supporting actors in Jet, Benji Rag, I gave him permission to improv. I gave him permission to improv, and I've kept all of his improvs in because they're absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, I guess, what was the question?
Yeah, just how you operate from take to take and what the actors bring in.
Yes, yeah, it's, so take to take wise, first take, I usually just let them do their own thing, and then I will give them notes. I'll be like, okay, this is what I feel like could be improved on, or could be what we could change, and then they'll often talk to me and be like, that's great, but how about if we do this? And then the DOP will come over and they'll be like, actually, you're both wrong. So it happens 9 times out of 10, I swear to God. So yeah, the first 2 takes for me, I have the rule where I'm a 3-take wonder. First take is usually just a rehearsal. Second take is almost there. The third take is the way to go. So yeah, that's my rules.
Do you like to do a lot of takes or no?
I usually aim for 3, unless the third one is absolutely terrible, then I'll do more.
That's very few.
Yeah.
So you don't like to do a lot of takes at all?
Not really, because I feel like actors get tired after a while, and the scene loses momentum.
Wow.
So.
What if you had an unlimited budget like David Fincher, who does like 97 takes?
Oh no, because then I get tired. It's like, okay, let's do this again. Sweet.
You then have to watch 95 takes in the edit as well. That sucks.
No, that's why you have a continuity first. You're like, print that one. Remember that.
Well, none of us have had unlimited budgets yet.
Yeah.
All right, so there's like, so CCTV Nasty had a lot of oneers, and if you don't know what that is, that's like a scene that like runs out over a long period of time. So rather than like you delivering like 4 lines and then we cut and then we get another angle, this was like one of the scenes goes for 3 minutes. so it's a long one, and so we would have to do that over and over again. And the first time I would watch it through, and like as the director, I'm like taking notes, and I'm like, hey, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and I'm trying to pick up everything, and then they do it again, and then I'd like pick up things that I might have missed the third time. So I'm probably not like in the ballpark of where I wanted it to actually be until like the fourth take. And then they're starting to like hit it, but then there's like a fumble. It's a long shot, there's camera movement, there's changing locations, there's lots of blocking, so things just move different. You're humans, you're not robots, so things land differently each time. And so like in CCTV Nasty, I think the most takes I did on one shot was like 16, and that sucked because you don't want to do that. No one wants to keep on doing the same thing.
I don't think 16 is a lot.
I
don't.
But at the same time, like one like brutal truth that probably directors shouldn't admit, but I'll tell you anyway, is that like sometimes you're like sitting there, and so there's the lead up to the take, and you've like sat down, and prior to this you've had someone come in and tell you that okay, you're like getting kicked out from this particular location in 15 minutes, and oh, such and such is like just arrived and they're just going into makeup, and like, oh, we can't like move this light here, can we move it somewhere else? And then people call quiet on set and roll camera and slate it, and then all of a sudden like everything is really quiet and your brain just goes quiet, and then the actors start performing and you're watching but you're not watching, and then it gets to the end and you're like, all right, we just need to do that one more time again.
So I can concentrate.
Yeah. So sometimes that happens, and the director will never admit it, and the performer's like, is there anything I could do differently? And like, no, you did really good. It's just like.
Isn't there a story about Brando doing that? He just like changed slide things just to make sure the director was watching. If they didn't watch it, he was like, fuck this guy. And just would like phone it in. It's not how you should. That's not how you should act.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. I mean, it's tricky. I mean, directors absolutely suffer from fatigue. We definitely do. I don't think on the film that we had enough time to do 60 takes of anything. Yeah. We might have done 10 to 12 of some like smaller, shorter scenes, but like honestly, we're trying to punch through as many pages as possible. So I reckon we did an average of 3 to, well, you were there, did 3 to 8, 3 to 9.
Yeah,
between 3 and
3 to 8 or 7.
Yeah, which is a fair
Per angle.
per angle.
Yeah. So not
wide,
for the whole scene.
Wide, maybe
Per
three
angle.
wides. We're swinging for like a minute.
I was there, so I know.
Yeah, 2 shots. Well, that was very fast. We shot it real fast.
did.
We were on a good day.
We did. Yeah, we did what, 2 scenes? Plus we actually did a pick up.
But we're talking about over a dozen takes, not 3 takes per scene.
No. And we had like,
per angle.
and we did that in what, 5 hours or something? 4.5?
No, a full day.
Only because we like went outside and kept shooting outside, because we're like, well, officially we said we'd be out by 2 o'clock, but we can just shoot. Do you mind if we shoot outside? They're like, yeah, whatever. So we sort of snuck a little thing in there. We were very sort of sneaky. That was a really good day. It was toward the end of the shoot. We were getting good. But early on, like, yeah, so you're doing like, three of the wide, and you're sneaking for like a 2-shot mid, and you're going like maybe 3, or maybe if it's not going well, 7 of those, and then you got to swing around for a close-up on this person, then a close-up on this person. So you're shooting the scene maybe, 20 takes for a whole scene potentially, right?
I would also like to say that Sebastian was incredible at dealing with the day-to-day stress that any director deals with. I've been on huge sets where very reputable directors with massive credits, I'm just like, how are you still working?
I'm very good at masking, but this time was a very hard time.
I just, from the inside of some of the obstacles that you were facing, it was a stressful day, just like anything. You would never know as an actor.
Probably hard, isn't it?
As an actor, you would never know the stress that Dia and Sebastian were dealing with on the day. If I can be so bold to assume I could feel the stress because I know and I heard every obstacle you were facing. And myself included, when I was a younger director, I was like, I would have been freaking out, and I have freaked out, where I've let my stress affect my actors. You did not ever let that happen. And I want to commend you for that.
Oh, well, thank you, James. It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
I will mention, as someone who's produced 3 of these directors' films, they all experience stress very differently.
Here we go.
And I'm going to tell you how they do it. Okay. When Seb's stressed, he will get extra nice. He will get so polite, and then you'll go off somewhere. I won't know where you go. Probably get coffee without telling me, and you'll come back and you'll be fine. Sascha here, you'll ask him a question, and the brain will just go, and then he'll answer it when you're stressed.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Walshy will just.
It might be better out than in. I
do remember one time we were shooting the most logistically difficult scene in North Melbourne, the one you see in the trailer where the camera goes around and around and around on roller skates, as Liv is saying, a mental breakdown.
That's great.
Everything's going fine. It's going really good, it's going really good. Then the sound comes out of it. Hey Andrew, I've got some bad news. What's going on? I have to leave in half an hour. I had a bottle in my hand, and
My point is, read the room, because, you know, at any given moment,
I apologize after.
Directors are dealing with so many things to juggle, and there's so many components that you're trying to coordinate together. Every department head you're dealing with. Actors are just one part of the equation.
It's an
and
important part.
it means everything to you, and that's important. I'm an actor first and foremost. I get it. Everything that you're doing, everything that you're preparing for, it means the world to you. But when you approach a director about questions, or trying to discover your specific thing, they're literally juggling 12 balls in the air at the same time. So
I'm not trying to justify anything, but I did have a baby on the way as well as making my first feature, so I was a bit on edge.
But read the room, because those moments can sometimes lead to unexpected moments of just like tension, or when you're dealing with a director and you need a specific answer, because you're entitled to do that. You absolutely are.
Yeah.
Absolutely are entitled to ask questions, just like we covered tonight. But read the room, because there's 25 other things the director's thinking about, not just you and your. That's why it's so important for you guys to be prepared, to be able to deliver, and to just make a director go, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about that. I directed a play a year ago, and I had 12 actors that I had to work with, and there was an actor that came up to me at one point, and he was like, you haven't given me any direction, and it's making me insecure. And I said, that's because I trust you. Anything you're doing, I trust will be fine. You've proven to me that I don't have to worry about you. I have 11 other actors that I'm thinking about that are occupying my limited brain capacity.
James, is that actually what he said, that I'm feeling insecure about?
Yeah.
I commend that actor for being so self-aware, as opposed to being like, James, what's your fucking problem? Like, why don't you? Because I've done it with directors. I've been like, what's his problem? And it's like, oh no, nothing. You are solving the problem I have of having that role do well. So that's an interesting thing to commend the actor for actually being like, and it's making me feel insecure. And you go, oh, well then let me help by saying this. Which is already.
He was like number 12 on the list of like, I don't have to worry about the guy. He's good. He knows what he's doing. I have so many other personalities I'm contending with that are demanding my attention and my limited brain capacity, and they're occupying my focus. And then I was just like, dude, what? No, you're fine. I trust you. It's fine. I'm so glad you're here. I don't have to think about you. And that's a luxury for a director.
But think about me, Dave.
So I was like, read the room. I was like, if I need you to rein it in, I'll tell you. And then at one point, I'm like, show number 10. I was like, dude, that was a little much. And he was like, okay, cool.
Now I need to funny.
Yeah. All right. So just to end on a fun note.
I didn't answer that.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
I feel like I already sort of answered it in a couple of my previous answers, but just one thing to add. If as an actor you feel like you make a mistake on a take, never cut. That's not your job. Because we might have other ideas, we might think that it wasn't as bad as you thought, we might think there's some other value in this shot that we're going to keep going anyway. And again, it's about that presence and awareness of, if we're, for example, in a wide shot, if you may make a mistake, just keep going. But if we're just doing a close-up of your lines, if you make a mistake, take a deep breath, give it a little bit of room, say it again. And then that will really help us. So, but it's not your job to cut.
Fantastic. Awesome. I want to open up to questions in a second. If anybody has any pressing questions, please ask them. Just for fun, really massive. I'm going to give you guys a little insight. Directors talk to each other about actors, about the do's and the don'ts, the disaster stories, and the hugely successful stories of like, oh my God, I had the most amazing experience. So anything you guys want to talk about in terms of like some great experiences and success moments, or just like, don't do this. Like little cautionary tales. I'm going to open up to you guys. I think this is very helpful. Like the do's and don'ts of everything from the audition to working on set. Just giving actors some insight as to what's the best thing you could do, what's the worst thing you can do. Two ends of the spectrum.
I recently had an audition, and I don't think that anyone in this room would probably do this because it was a bit of a generational thing. It was an actor who had been away from the industry for a number of years and had come back. And it was an old white guy. And I'm going to be one at some point, it's fine. But the context is important, I think. So in the scene, it's a kind of it's a date scene. And, we're kind of like throwing things in there, like, so have a little bit of fun, go a little more flirty, that sort of stuff. And it's going all right. And at the end, I kind of check in with this actor and say, oh, how are you feeling? He's like, pretty turned on. And I'm like,
Not what I meant to say.
I'm like, what? I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh no, I mean like, I was like, like I was really getting into that scene. And I feel, and I was like, well, thanks for that. And yeah, great. Cool. We'll contact you.
Sebastian, any great success moments that were surprising, or just something that stood out to you as like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Really from that, to be honest. I'm trying to think. Like, I guess people coming in and people just coming in and surprising you with how things resonate, because sometimes you're not sure. You look at a thing on paper, fair enough, and I don't know, like actors coming in and bringing in offers to solve things that you truly didn't know how they were going to work. I mean, that's pretty amazing to see when they really connect personally with the roles. And you can't manufacture that. On some roles you will, like, one of our actors came in and was having a similar in the film. She had an elderly relative that was ill, and this actor was doing the same thing. And she came in and it was like, it was all there, and we didn't know that at the time. We were just like, what's happening right now? And she just came in raw and really authentic, and we were just like, what the fuck just happened? And it was a really an intense and overwhelming time in her life. Just hit the right time, and it was really kind of healing and cathartic for her, and it was beautiful and brilliant. I mean, not that you wish that upon anyone or in that moment, but it was just sort of like an alignment that had happened. That's the stuff, I guess, that you kind of go, oh wow, that's a really special and incredible kind of moment. So yeah.
It's very actor dependent.
Yeah, and also fate, life, and kind of just the sort of a synchronicity of things as well sometimes. Yeah, it is actor dependent as well, absolutely. Something
that every time I'm auditioning, coaching actors, a lot of newer actors say this thing that just gets me under the skin. They go, what are they looking for? And I'm always just like, ugh!
What do you say?
Stop asking that. Stop thinking about what they're looking for. Surprise them. Give them something new to think about. Bring your unique quality that is you and your unique take on this. That requires time. That requires script analysis. That requires reading the script 100 times if you need to discover something that's special and unique to you, that's like, oh, that's an interesting moment. What can I do with that? And then how truthful can you bring that moment, in the moment, on the day, in the audition, whether it's a self-tape or in the room, and just make it special and make it organic and surprise yourself. That example I gave about like me, I was thinking all day, like, that's going to be really clever. I'm going to make that really funny. And then it just, you know, it was contrived. And then just getting hit in the face with like, oh, that sucked. Let me do it again. I don't know what's going to happen right now. And that's the take I sent, and I got the role. You know, like you got to trust. You got to commit, and you got to trust. And everything is a complete contradiction, and nothing makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it. All right, keep going.
I've got one. All right, my advice for this to actors is respect your art department. I'll just say that. So, with a lot of indie films, a way we save money is we'll often ask actors to supply their own costumes. Ever since this, I don't. I try not to as much as I can. So, we were shooting the climax scene, right? Which was a man realizes that the love of his life has seen him kiss another woman, and he's going to go chase the love of his life into another scene. So the kissing scene happens. We shot this on 2 different days. Kissing scene happens. So we shot that a month before, and then the scene when he goes after her, we had to shoot a month later. I forgot why. But the actor was like, oh, I'm gonna take my costume. No, it wasn't a month, it was the next day. He's like, I need to take my costume home in the car. And my production designer said, please don't do that. Please let me hold the costume just for tonight. You're not gonna wear it. And the actor's like, no, have to take it home. Have to leave it in the car. Anyway, he didn't leave it in the car. He comes to set the next day, and he's wearing different coloured pants. Severe different coloured pants, and there's no time for us to go back and get the correct pants. We can't go and buy new pants. So we're like, what do? We're going to have to colour correct this in post. It's going to take ages. And his idea was, how about in the script, my character goes home to change his pants and then goes after the train. And I'm like, what?
Punch you in the face.
Yes. What? Why would your character change his pants? And only his pants.
And how would the audience know that?
I know. Do we have to film this scene of him going home, changing his pants, and then going, oh, right, the love of my life, gotta go get her. What? So, yes.
What did that doing?
Well, we're gonna have to colour correct that scene.
Oh no!
So we've edited around it so we can kind of half see his pants, but still, yeah, no, just go home and chase his pants. That's fine. That's fine. Oh, so yeah, respect your art department.
You respect everybody, really.
Oh yes. But if your production designer says, "Hey, let me hold these pants for one night," please listen.
Yeah, in terms of respecting the departments, even something as arbitrary as like me saying to the sound guy, there's a big screaming scene. My father just got shot, and I have to scream. So I, just go up to the sound guy. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm gonna scream, so I don't blow your eardrums out. Just every little thing like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay, so it was the first day of the set of my very first feature film. Day 1, and we had planned to shoot in the garden of the location. 3 or 4 exterior scenes that day. We arrived on set, it had been raining. The river that runs through the property had risen.
Oh.
So the entire garden is now filled with water. But in this case, I had a good giggle for about 5 minutes whilst my crew and cast watched in horror about me going mental. But it was good because then we just told the cast to just wait for a minute. We have a little chat with the crew, and we decided to do 3 or 4 indoor scenes instead with the same actors that happened to be there. So, and they were fabulous. They were obviously not prepared to do those scenes, but because they knew their roles so well, we didn't need a long time to rehearse for the new scenes that hadn't been planned for that day. So I guess the teaching from that is just, again, remain open and flexible to whatever might happen that might have nothing to do with the director, might have to do with the circumstance. And that whole shoot day could have been lost. We could have lost an entire day, everyone show up and not get anything, but instead we managed to film some scenes that we hadn't planned to do. So that was great. I think my biggest horror story though is like when actors don't go and see their own films. If you're lucky enough to get that role, that I like for Westmark Effect, for example, for the leading role, I had 100 applications. So if you're 1 in 100, or if it's, you know, a big mainstream role, you're probably 1 in 1,000 if you happen to get that role. Why would you not go and see the film? I just don't understand it. I think there's so much you can learn from that experience of seeing it. But yeah, I guess lots of my happy, I'm going a little bit off the script here with this question, but like lots of my happy experiences in the industry is when everyone like really supports the film that they're making, and you don't just go on set and do your job and then that's done, you move on to the next. You look at it as a career, and it's in your best interest if this film that you had a role in does well. So it's in your best interest that there's people that see it, so you spread the word. In your social media, whatever it is, Facebook, Instagram, in any way that you can, it's in your best interest that people hear about your film. So don't just go, of course, yeah, you keep going to different roles because that's your career as well, but to really care about the role that you do and to really care about the entire production that you're doing and keep it, like that's going to help your career to get those other roles. That's it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about that in the Arnold documentary on Netflix about like your responsibility is to make the film, but an equal responsibility is to sell the film. And he got everybody on board with that, with like, we have to do publicity for this film because we can make the greatest film in the world, but if nobody sees it, what's it all for? And that was a big part of that, which I thoroughly agree with. Absolutely. It's really frustrating to put your heart and soul into something for years, and then for the actors to not be on board, it can be frustrating, for sure. All right.
So a moment that like touched me was first day of shooting, and CCTV nasty, and I got like a 6 a.m. Call from the lead actress for this block, and she sent through a picture, and she'd had an abscessed tooth. She told me the day before, and she was like, look, I'm going to go to the dentist, I'm going to like get some emergency dental work, we'll see what we can do. But we got like the call the morning of, and it looked like she was hiding an orange in the side of her face. And she was in tears, and she's like, look, I'm not sure what I can do about this face, but we can like shoot around it, or we can do this sort of thing. And of course the responsible thing from the crew was like, go to bed, rest up. And she was distraught, and she's like, you're going to recast me, aren't you? And I'm like, no, because like we cast you for a reason. And the thing with filmmaking is that the first day, yeah, it sucks to have like a landmine on the first day, but you're also most flexible on the first day, because it means that you have the rest of the shoot to play with. If this had happened on the last day, it would have been more tricky because you don't have any more budget or shoot time left. So we for that particular day, we put the costume on the deer and shot fake Shemp. If you don't know, that's like an industry term. Shemp, one of the Three Stooges, died, and so they, for a long time, they did fake Shemp, where they would dress someone like Shemp so they could still the sketches. So we fake shamped our way through the day, and we rejigged the schedule so that she could appear in the. She had like 4 days to rest and recover, and she was good. And she came back to set, and like was a dream to work with. So it's give and take. You don't like you get cast, and you owe a responsibility to production, but the production also owes a responsibility to you. We have to look after you. We have to make sure that you're not doing anything that will get you injured, or if you're sick, make you more sick. We have to like accommodate you where reasonable. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, without incriminating myself.
Now that was a fun week. I remember that, me dressed in costume, going, okay, where are the cameras? Yeah, they're there. Okay, don't show my face.
Yeah.
Running, going, don't show my face.
That's cool. We even learned something new about fiction.
Celebrate? Richard?
Yeah, I guess my advice would just be never be afraid to ask questions, question everything, but at the same time don't overanalyze things. I think where it's like music, art, film, whatever, the more you analyze it, the more you fuck it up. And respect everybody, no matter what their department is.
Walshy, what's a memory from How Deep? A bad one.
How deep is the ocean?
Yeah. Yes.
There were no bad ones.
Can I give one?
Yes.
Can I finish?
I want to hear it.
Can I finish my point?
I want to hear it.
Yeah, look, respect everybody. Look, I had 500 actors apply for one role, and lots of them were not very nice people. They were like, there's no way I'm going to be stuck with this person for 14 days on set. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just respect and also fun. Filmmaking should be fun. The only problem is though, there are 1,000 factors that are going to get in our way and take the fun away. The job of the actor, director and the crew is to hold on to that fun and never let it go.
Beautiful.
May I suggest a question?
Sure.
Because I think it will be useful for you to hear from all of us how do we do casting and how you can approach us. Would that be useful?
Please.
Yeah. I can go first. Follow me on social media. I advertise all the roles so just find me on Instagram. It's on your postcard. Saara Lamberg is my name, Saara Lamberg Official. So whenever there's something coming up, I will put it on Instagram. So that's the easiest way of staying in touch with me. I now have such a big collection of Melbourne actors that I already know that the ones that really stand out is the faces that I see over and over and over again. So going to film events like this one, going to see films, going to just stay present in the industry, and that's the best way of getting cast. Yeah.
Tia, did you have a story?
Oh yeah, obviously. You know, it's all good. You don't have any stories, Walshy? Come on.
Only good memories.
Oh, okay. Well, this one's hilarious.
Oh, great.
It's hilarious to me. So we were shooting at the beach.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
We were shooting at the beach.
That was a great memory. That was the best
love
memory.
it so much.
Go on.
So much.
Go on.
So it's this scene where Olivia goes into the water and she goes under and she flips her hair back and she's reborn. It's beautiful, beautifully shot. We shot this in winter.
It's shivering.
Yeah, we shot this down in
Williamstown, yeah.
So I remember this because I produced an AD. So I was on the shore with the soundy and with someone else. And while she's like, okay, I'm going to go in, the actor's going to go in, and the two camera people are going to go into the water. Okay, cool. So the actress Olivia goes in, she's in costume, costume's warm. She's a bit awkward at first, goes right in, she's fine. Andrew here dives in like a fish to water, he's fine. I've never seen anyone more comfortable in my life.
They were all afraid to get in the water. I had to lead by example.
Oh yeah. And then I hear a scream. The highest pitched scream I've ever heard. I turn around and the DOP Scott has gotten in the water and he's screaming. Just
Get used to that.
yeah, just, ah! Oh, Yeah, the second camera operator, he didn't say anything, but he just looked in going, oh god, whereas Walsh is just diving like a dolphin. And I'm on the shore going, oh yeah, this is the life.
If anybody has pressing questions, we can open that up first in a moment, but just as a last sort of gem to leave our actors with, is there anything that you wish all actors would know so that it could just sort of help them in their approach or process? For me, I'll start this off, I say this all the time, it's all about what unique quality that defines you in your personal life. Stop thinking about what are they looking for. Yeah, it's important to think about how do I serve the character, how do I serve the story, how do I serve the role. That's all really important, but there's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of actors doing the same scripted material over and over and over. What's going to make you stand out is what unique qualities you can bring to the role. What defines you? Bring that. So many actors don't do that because they're thinking about serving the audition and they're thinking about getting the role, when it's simply a matter of be yourself. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you're going to make an impression. I can't tell you how many roles I booked where I was just like, I'm just going to do my own thing. It may or may not work. I don't know. I don't care. And then sure enough, they bring me in for more roles and more roles and more roles. And when you have true conviction and commitment to what you're doing, that's always been one of my biggest messages, is it will work out. But don't try to do what somebody else's idea is. Do what you want to do, show who you are, show what you're all about. Your unique quality is what's going to stand out. It's like that scene from Friends when Joey Tribbiani comes in and everybody's wearing a motorcycle jacket and has slick hair and they're all doing the same role. That's what auditions are like. They're seeing the same thing again and again and again and again. What makes you unique is going to stand out. Trust that, honor that, serve that, and it will lead to more opportunities. So that's one of my sort of core messages. So that's something that I'm constantly trying to say to actors. So if there's one thing that you could say to actors that they need to know, what would that be?
I mean, jumping off that, what you were saying there, I think is a huge, for me, it was a massive jump when I started realizing that I was more than what I did as well. Like, you're all in this, you're playing the role, you are in this as actors right now, and we're all sitting up here as directors. But that is just a label we put on the things that we do in the way we express ourselves right now. There's a Sam Neill had a quote, which was, I'm going to butcher it a bit, but I'm getting the essence right, that when he called himself an actor, he was very miserable. And when he started talking about himself as a person who acts, he was a lot happier, because it meant that when he wasn't acting, he was still a person. He still existed and had value and are interesting, and going out there and being a human being, paying attention to the loved ones in your life, to your pet, to your parents, do whatever you do, but like that those are just as valid as this thing, means that you bring that back into your craft. And for a long time, I put acting as being the most important thing in my life, and as soon as I embraced the fact that I was a human being who acts, I was not only going to get better as an actor, but I was happier as a person. And so, like, this is a brutal industry, I think, especially for actors, because it's so much about being in response to what the industry wants, or either gives you or doesn't give you. That seeking validation outside yourself is almost a necessary part. Like, you need to seek response from an audience to make sure you're on it, right? Make sure it's working, make sure it's landing. But that moves to validation very quickly, and the lines get very, very blurred. And it can be a very, for me as a young man with low self-esteem, it can be a very toxic relationship to have. So yeah, so kind of building on what you're saying, that's probably the biggest thing I would say. Like, you aren't what you do, but you do a wonderful, beautiful thing in acting, and I love it, and we genuinely love it. Like, all of us up here are here because we are passionate about actors and about acting. So, not to take away from what you're doing, but like, embrace your acting. It is really important. I know it sounds kumbaya, but like,
No, dude, that hits, man.
Yeah, because if you look to acting just to give you value, and that's it. I mean, like, what do you like, set a couple times a year? Who knows? Like, the amount of money you make off, you can't put a number on. You can't be like, well, I made $1,200 from acting in the last 2 years. What does it mean? It doesn't mean it's a number. It's a number, Anyway.
Pretty good number.
Yeah, it's pretty good number. You're right, actually. In last 5 years.
Anybody else? What do actors have to know?
I tell all actors this, network. So 90% of my leads that I cast in films that I direct, I don't audition. I hate auditions. I despise them.
Why do you hate them?
Why do I
Is it a
hate
personal
them?
thing? Like, you think the concept they're awful, or?
The reason I hate them is I don't feel like people show their authentic selves.
Oh, okay.
In auditions. That's talking about the auditionees and the auditioners. Like when I audition people, I'm not myself. I have a script that I read. Oh yeah, so this is the film. This is our shooting dates. This is when we're I usually cast my leads because I've been on someone else's set, and I've seen them act, and we've spoken in person, and I like them as a person, and then I'm like, hey, I'm making a film. I have a character. Would you like it? I will tailor the role to you.
You know what's so interesting about that is I fully agree and disagree with that on such equal levels.
Yeah.
Because I think networking is a dirty word. I hate the idea of networking and schmoozing your way through with ulterior motives.
I always hate those things.
However, if I think about my history of all the films that I've made, I always cast people that I knew and just liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was around them for whatever reason, not because of networking, but because of the environment and the community that was built through just being plugged into the work.
Yeah, and it's funny too, like smaller roles on films, a lot of the time we'll just give it to whoever's on set. Like my runners have been in so many roles. Because sometimes an actor just doesn't show up. So network, jump on other people's sets even as runners.
In the last year, I've not networked with you whatsoever, and you gave me 2 roles.
Yeah, I was like, hey James.
It's a dirty word to me. It's
Yeah.
it's a terrible word. I hate that idea of networking.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
But you do it without realizing.
And she gave me 2 roles.
Yeah.
Because you're awesome. But it was the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
That's one of those contradictions.
Yeah, because we were network, we were just talking, and then like, hey, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about showing up, and you guys all showed up, so I think you're on your way.
I genuinely. Sorry, did you have something?
Also, I still want to hear from
Please
other
don't do that.
directors about how they cast, so that everyone.
That was going to be my question. I want to hear this.
Okay, so firstly, just rock up on time, please. There's nothing worse, particularly a shoot day. If you're just late, everyone hates you. It sucks. It sucks. But beyond that, so we're all directors. We've all done something very audacious, but at the same time, there's nothing inherently special about this. So this is less of a something advice specifically just for actors. This is for everyone. It is don't get stuck on seeking approval from other people. Particularly not us dweebs. Make your own opportunities. Write your own stories. Learn everything you can about filmmaking. Learn about acting. Learn about other departments as well, because that will make you even more invaluable to cross between. All big actors eventually become producers because that's where the money's at.
And so they have creative control over things.
Exactly.
Tell stories they want to tell.
That's not money. Don't expect to make money.
That's
Creative control is your money.
Yeah.
It's the guns.
But generate like. Go to auditions, learn about that, but also generate your own content. Bring like what you are doing now is like you're networking with each other, and you've got like an opportunity to like spiral these connections into your own projects and make your own stuff. So yeah, my thing to actors is don't just like rely on like that big break coming. Vin Diesel and like make your own short film. Go out and get yourself seen and do something. Take destiny into your own hands.
Love that.
Anybody else? All right. I want to open the Q&A to everybody. I'm going to kick it off with my own question, though, because I want to ask everybody if this is my own volition. So thank you guys, first and foremost, for such a beautiful collection of invaluable insight to what it means to be a director and a filmmaker in this collaborative process. So we're going to open up to you guys. If you have pressing questions, please ask. Please do. This is your opportunity. I'm going to start it off with asking about your directing style. And I know there's a big open spectrum of like everything's true all at once. I get it. But if you could get disciplined here for the sake of our actors, when you're going take to take, is your style more emotionally driven with an actor's performance, or technically driven with like I'm thinking about the edit and how things cut together and this is such a delicate blend of an actor's performance, emotionally speaking, and what the actor's delivering, versus like this is a technical craft and we have to be technically proficient, and things just don't work if you're not hitting those craft-driven things. In your experience, what have you experienced most? What have you dealt with most? Where are you at with how you operate as a director in terms of giving directors notes? Is it more from an emotional place, more from a technical place? What can you elaborate on the technical versus the emotional?
My pet hate is going to a film festival and seeing technically perfect film that's got no story or not good performances. And I'm always coming from the emotional, I'm always coming from the performance. Whether it's in the edit, which one I choose, I will choose the take that's technically worse if the performance is spot on every time. And yeah, as an audience member, it frustrates me to like, I could talk about this forever. Can we be here until 6 a.m.?
Me and you both,
and there's
me
so
and you
many
both.
directors out there that only look at the technical and don't.
And as a director, that's like one of the worst kind of like, like
so
when it doesn't match up.
I'm 100% about performance and emotion.
And then when it does match up, you're just like, thank God. Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't match up.
It's tricky because I'm the same. I always prioritise the performance over. Like we'll sort technical stuff out. We'll colour grade the pants. Oh, fuck. We'll colour grade the pants. We'll figure out a way. We'll cut around it. We'll snip a moment out. We'll cut away to something else. So we can come back and fix that little botchy bit. But there's ways to make it work. But I'll fight to my dying breath to get performance to prioritise. That said, it's tricky. Sometimes you have set pieces. We had a couple of set pieces, like action set pieces, where we just threw 4 cameras on it because we knew, well, we've got to get it. We've got one go at it, so we'll hopefully get it in a bunch of different angles. Now there wasn't a chance to kind of, or maybe there was 2 chances potentially if it really went bad. But in that, the actor has to deliver. We've got it's all happening then, so that's pressure. And so we're then it's about me kind of working out how to juice that actor up, have them, what do they need? Do they want to go out of some of the music before this bit? Are they kind of like let loose? Fair enough. And I have them just go over there and do their thing. Or if they need to actually keep it light and just sort of chat and kind of be, and I know that's kind of part of their process of sort of taking the stress off it so that when it happens, they bring everything. Fair enough. But cultivating what they need and kind of, and intuiting that, to be honest, I kind of did intuit how each actor needs, or what each actor needs. But in that thing, there is definitely a focus on like, this technically has to come off right. We only have one door we can destroy. We only have one, fake body we can beat the shit out of with the bat. It is what it is, right? And so you throw up all the cameras and you kind of get it right. You set it up for like 2.5 hours and you shoot it in 3 minutes and that's it. So with that, like, I'm making sure the actor's in the right place before we go for it. I'm talking with them about size. I'm talking with that kind of stuff. And but at the end of the day, the emotional performance is always for me what pins everything together, because it's what makes you care about stories and it's what stays with you. Technically perfect stuff is amazing. I really like David Fincher as a director, but that stuff doesn't stay with me for days after, weeks after. Like, I mean, some stuff does, but it'll be not because of the crazy tight edit that he did. It'll be because of other things, the actors' performances, story moments, maybe images. Some of his images are pretty great, but yeah, it's not because he's a tight director that he's great. It's because, you know, of the other elements that haunt me.
So get your pitchforks ready.
Pitchforks?
I am technical. So I don't like conventional coverage, and I always have lofty, ambitious ideas, like let's film an entire film through CCTV television.
I'm like,
which is, I'm never satisfied with conventional coverage. I always have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm always coming at filmmaking with something new. That's what excites me. That's what inspires me. So for me, acting is about movement over time. So it's about dance, it's about choreography, it's about getting that stuff right, and then on top of that, you have your cake and you got to eat it too. You got to get the performances. Right. It's like you can't have one without the other. I think that for me personally, just like over the shoulder coverage is like that kind of takes me out of the film. And like the performances can be wild, but what I like is something like Tarkovsky, where we're seeing, and if you haven't seen any of these films, please do yourself a favor. They're all in Russian. They're really dense. Probably see like Saara Stalker or Ivan's Childhood. That's probably the most digestible if you can handle a film about a child during the Second World War.
Yeah, maybe Saara Stalker first.
But it is a ballet between the performer and the camera, and that's what gets me excited. Watching the two like work hand in hand, and so yeah, to do that successfully, there has to be a technical proficiency. It takes, and that's not expected immediately. It takes time to do that. It takes time to like hit your marks and learn everything. And filmmaking is kind of a slow and tedious process, but once you do that, and then you add like your performance, like there's realms for me, which is like the choreography, and then there's a realm for you, which is the performance, and we kind of both have to compromise and meet in the middle to get something that is really exciting.
I love that, a ballet between the performer and the camera. I love that. That's wonderful, fun, fantastic. Thank you. Just if everybody has any pressing questions, let's hit them. Just Sascha.
Not surprised at all. So, questions. Do you guys mainly do auditions in person, or do you prefer the self-tapes?
In person.
Person's better.
Yeah.
I do both, but I prefer in person. But I'll take sometimes first auditions as self-tapes, especially if they kind of line it up for something. Like I really want to see an actor. Like, yeah, sure, send a tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer in person. The only session we made was Adam Rowland for the role of Charlie, because we were coming in and out of the Melbourne lockdowns. So we just couldn't get Charlie together at the same time. So he did a self-tape on his own, again, with the guidance.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm a face-to-face person.
I'm so glad you guys said that, because I was having this discussion with another actually yesterday. Sorry if I may elaborate a little bit. But that I don't like this world of self-tapes. I'm kind of a veteran. I've been, acting since like the 90s and early 2000s. And so I prefer those in-person auditions where I'd be sitting in the foyer of the waiting room and I'd hear the other auditions going on and thinking, okay, I'm hearing the same thing happening. How can I mix this up before I go into the room? And that would be a lot of the time how I would approach those sort of things. Other people find that intimidating. I'm like, no, I've seen that a challenge. Someone else is doing the exact same thing. I'm just like, right, okay, how am I going to change this and be a bit different?
I like commercials. I like that commercials are more self-tape now because sometimes breaking a day up, dropping a shift, moving your kids around for whatever. Like organising life around commercial auditions can be frustrating considering your hit rate's like 1 in 50. You know what I mean? Like it's just nice sometimes to be able to like put them down whenever you But yeah, for like stuff that's not commercial, film, TV stuff, for scripted stuff, yeah, I get real crusty when I can't get it in person. It's really hard. I think that's really, really hard. I don't think it's hard to get a vibe off people. It's hard to kind of gauge to land the performance. That said, you get some great tapes coming in for this. But I would always get them in person and run with other people and do lots of stuff in the room.
And to that, I will also say that as somebody who started auditioning in the mid-90s, I only know in-room auditions. And when self-tapes became a thing, I didn't have a single different approach to it. It's the same exact thing to me. And I've had a lot of success in self-tapes auditions. I only do 2 or 3 takes. I treat it the same exact way.
How do you show how cool you are, James?
With the self
The
tape.
chat to camera. The chat to camera is where you show that. The chat to camera is the thing. Don't skip it. Like, make sure you have.
But it's not a
personality.
difference to me. It's not a difference to me.
If you do have to do a self tape, it's about the performance. So I still get asked to act as well, and I was waiting for a flight on the Brisbane airport. And I got a casting call in. I had about 10 minutes before I was supposed to board. I read my casting call, the lines, whatever I had to deliver. I went to the disabled toilet because it's a bit bigger than normal toilets and there's no other people there. And I recorded it and I got the part.
Wow.
So, like, it's about the performance. It's not about having the lights and the background and, you know, as long as they can hear you well and they can see you well, done.
So for me, I direct, and I'm a person that directs. But more than that, I'm a person that produces, and I like so much more of my life has been spent producing. And so, come the casting call. And if the producer isn't also the director, then the producer is in the ear of the director. One thing you're looking for is someone that shows up, and someone that shows up on time. And that's almost as important as like the audition itself. If you're sending through self-tape, then that sort of information is still unknown. And so if you're sending through self-tapes, then you want to make sure that your online communication is really on point. You're not like getting a question from the director or the producer and then waiting 2 days to get back to them. You want to like be on top of that so that they know that you are on it and reliable.
Nothing.
So I know that as directors and producers, you have a certain vision of what you want to see in a film. So my question is regarding scouting. How do you approach it, and what obstacles did you find along the way in your film?
Like location scouting?
Yeah, locations.
Oh God.
A trick I tell a lot of directors I work with, and I use myself, is write what you've got. So it helps with budget. So, for example, Disconnected, my feature, is shot mainly at a B&B, which was one location, which I had access to, which they gave me a discount, which saved me money. Marital Problems, the trailer you saw, shot in one house, which is my grandfather's house. It's just, write what you know, what you have. With Jet, I went the complete opposite. Oof. I wrote an epic about a band.
How many venues?
7, which I did not own any venues, so that dramatically increased the budget.
Connections to porn.
Well, I do now.
Expensive connections.
But yeah, with location scouting, for indie guys, it's usually what you know, what you can get, and what's available, unfortunately.
That could be another thing that an actor offers. If they know that they've got a house available, for example, they can say that in the audition, and it might just make it so that you get the role. Who knows?
So for CCTV Nasty, and this is a little bit different to like my. So CCTV Nasty is a passion project, and it's something that like I felt very passionate about for like all of the stuff that all of the professional stuff that I directed and produced. For ClickView, you would find a location, you would get a brief, and then you break it down, and you have a list of locations, and you just like contact every conceivable option for those locations as possible. Sometimes it'd be like, oh, we need a circus tent, and you'd like think, okay, what can stand in for a circus tent?
Yeah.
For CCTV Nasty, we had over 80 locations over 30 days. It was big. Most of those locations were outdoors in the city of Melbourne. Melbourne has a lot of little alleyways. Most of it was alleyways. Melbourne has quite a few alleyways. I visited every single one. I could like show you my. Oh, well, here you go. So this is every point. Every alleyway I went to and took pictures of, it left a little point, and so this is Melbourne.
Oh my god.
So I think I have over 1,000 different like locations that I went to, because for CCTV Nasty, I knew that that like we had a limited budget, and you sell films on production value. Like you sell things on, like there's the performance, there's the camera, there's the lighting, that sort of thing. Production value for me was I knew that Melbourne had many eccentric, weird little alleyways, so I found them all, and I found backups for ones, because sometimes you go to an alleyway and there's a police raid, or like I don't know. We had all sorts of problems that I'm not going to mention here in front of an audience. That meant that we had to like move to a different alleyway, and I was able to say with certainty that okay, this is the next best option in the closest proximity, because I visited every single one.
I want to end with this. Thank you guys so much again. What is something that, to me, trust is a huge issue. When I trust an actor from the audition process to the shooting process, trust is a huge thing for me, of like what makes me just go, bam, it's solidified. For me, when I trust an actor to cast them in a role, everybody's going to have their own answer. Mine has a lot to do with somebody who's going to have a mind chock full of ideas. So many different ideas, so many different options, that they're going to be able to commit to it and bring authenticity to each different idea. They're not just going to have one necessarily singular idea, but a plethora of ideas, and they're going to be able to deliver an authenticity to that. It's convincing or it's not. They're committed or they're not. It's about commitment. It's about truthfulness. It's about bringing a variety. I like variety. I'm somebody who likes variety because I have my own idea, but I'm never confident enough to be like, my idea is the best idea. I'm always open to actors being like, what do you think? And I want to see that. So for me, trust is like, you're going to come into the day when we shoot with 12 different ideas, 12 different takes. You're going to do your homework, and you're going to be fully committed that I have 12 usable options. That's what I'm looking for. What are some things that instill that trust in you to make that casting decision, or take to take, or just being like, yeah, that's the person I want to work with?
Me, it was just honesty. So Olivia played the lead role. She's very honest. She's probably the most upfront person you'll ever meet in life. She will tell you right there and then, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And we were floating ideas for like the shooting days. We're like, no, Olivia, maybe Elmer should do this event. And the message, bullet points. Hi Andrew, here's why I don't think we should be doing that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, she's got me there. What's the alternative? Well, they can do it this way. Yeah, all right, we'll give that a try. But she wasn't doing it to undermine me as a director. She's doing it because she gives a shit about the story.
I had a phone call that I had to make to an actor for the feature, and I was like, it was a role offer conversation, and I was like, hey, listen, I want to offer you this role, and the response was like, not what I expected, because normally actors are like, oh, that's great, I'm really excited about the thing, and this actor's like, I mean, that's great, and I was like, cool. sure, I want to work with you. You know, we'd worked together previously as actors, and she's great, and I trusted her as an actor. I trusted, and she's like, I got this. Something's happened though that I think I need to be like forthright about. I need to be honest with you about. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. I'm like, what am I going to associate with this production? Okay, fair enough. And she goes, I've just found out that I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, I mean, firstly, congratulations. I mean, that's a very exciting thing. Like, you know, like that's phenomenal. And then she goes, but the problem is, I don't know how I'm going to look. I don't know if it suits the character. And I was like, let me think about it. And I thought about it. I mean, literally, like, you see me for like 5 seconds, and I was like, no, it's actually awesome. So the character is like a gangster's girlfriend, but she sort of kind of runs. She sort of has as far as power structure goes, she's kind of higher up than he is. And they're sort of a newer relationship, and it actually was perfect because it just raised the stakes for the two characters. It raised it so much more because he's trying to climb up the ranks, and so he has to do some stuff to do that. And so it kind of made the whole thing more intense, that he now has to kind of like come into his own, kind of, he has to like, and he's not comfortable in it either. He's like fighting his inner nature to do that. So having with his beautiful, terrifying, pregnant girlfriend was like a really interesting angle that I had never thought of. And because I didn't cast a pregnant lady, I cast a lady who was, I didn't know she was trying. And it ended up being really, really wonderful. It was tricky. She was heavily pregnant when it happened, and it was complicated. And we had to be careful about some rest times, and it was a bit of a thing. But I still back it, and I still think it's a really fun and weird choice, which kind of just was thrust upon us. And it was because I trusted her. I knew she'd be awesome. And I'm not saying it was an easier choice, but I think it was a really exciting choice. Yeah. And so I guess it's kind of about trust. Yeah, she told me right away. She was completely honest about it. I trusted that she'd be fine. I trusted that it would be fine, that we wouldn't have to recast if things got a bit more complicated. But we managed to make it work, and I'm really happy that we did. Yeah. Anyway, anybody else?
I guess meeting someone for the first time is really hard to gauge if you can trust them or not. So I've got a few little tricks that I do. When it comes to auditions, the ones I do run, I always tell them so I give them my phone number and my email, and I tell them to email me. If they don't email me and they call me, nah, sorry. You can't take basic directions. Not gonna work.
James knows. Don't fucking call me.
Little tricks like that, or I'll say something in the email, and if they don't pick it up, I'm like, okay. Also, the Melbourne industry is very small.
Oh, yeah.
It is very small. Everyone knows everyone.
Yep.
Everyone has worked with everyone. When I audition actors, or if I'm just meeting them, I will stalk them online. I will look at their IMDb, their Star Now, their whatever. I will see if there's any films that I know of, any directors I know, and then I will contact the director, and I'll be like, what would they like to work with? If they give me a bad review, I'm not going to tell the actor, but I'm not going to work with them. If it's a good review, I'll give them a chance. I'll take them out for coffee. I'll see, okay, are we kind of on the same page? If there's a no, then I'm not going to bring you on. So, yeah, just little things like that.
I don't know about trust, but I can talk. I can talk about like falling out of love with an actor. I remember. I remember. So CCTV Nasty was a long process, long time scripting, and I had a script reading, and I had an actor that read one particular role for the reading, and I was like. I'd cast these actors to do the reading without an audition. I was just like, rock up and read it for me, and I can like direct you on the day. It was just based on I suppose like their show reels. Like okay, you look like you can read. And so I had 5 actors do a script reading in front of an audience, and I got feedback, and all the actors were like really good. One actor in particular, I was like kind of like, wow, this person has taken the character and made it their own, and I was like I have to make the movie with them. And then production kind of ground on, and then I got in touch with the actor, and like, we're ready to start, and they're like, okay, all right, well, what's your budget? I'm like, okay, well, it's low budget. And they're like, look, I'm not really interested in doing low budget anymore. I'm like, okay, what's your fee? And they told me I told them what I had to offer. They're like, that's not enough. We want this. And that like, it's hard, but it's not an unreasonable request. If you're an actor and you've got other commitments, you can negotiate. And so I was like, look, I need a couple of days to think about this and like just do the sums and everything. And I didn't want to pay like, he was one of the 4 leads. I didn't want to pay my 4 leads separate, like different rates, because it's an independent film. And like, so I had to like do the maths, and then I kind of came back to him probably like 4 days later. I'm like, look, I've done the maths. I'd love to work with you. And his response was, okay, sure. Well, just let me know closer to the date, and I'll see if I'm available. And that was just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess not then.
Yeah.
My impression was that they didn't want the role, and
So you accepted his offer?
yeah. I was like, say again.
You were going to make it work.
Yeah, I was going to make it work, but they didn't want to. They didn't want to do it, and so you move on and you start looking again, and I think the story is that eventually you'll find someone else.
So what if he had said to you, listen, I've been seeing this and I actually don't think this role's right for me?
Yep.
Would you have been like, well, I'll never work with that guy ever again?
No.
No.
No,
But
no.
now you're like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you got a weird feeling? Is it kind of like
Yeah.
this-
So if you'd just been honest,
Yes.
you would be better.
If that's what you
Yes.
think is vibe,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I look for kindness, gentleness, intelligence, and I think trust comes from you knowing that if I cast you in the role, that means that I trust you to do the best job with that role, and you trusting my process. Not asking me too many questions about my process, because I'm not always very good at talking about my process or my work, whereas I might be good at doing it, and wait until you see the final product before you judge that. But like if as the director I get questioned a lot on set, we're also just people, we're human, we're vulnerable, and it eats up our self-assurance on the set if we get questioned too much about our process. So trust, I think, comes from me trusting that you're going to do the best job as an actor because I cast you, and you trusting that I'm going to do the best job as a director.
I think that's an individual thing, though. Like for me,
We disagreed on everything so far.
I wasn't keeping score. But
Trust me.
Again, another.
For me, if you have a question, I want to be able to answer it. I want everyone. It's just one more question that I have to answer. So yeah, that's okay.
And that speaks to exactly what I started this talk with you never know what you're going to get with any given director. It's up to you to be malleable and flexible with all of it and embrace that. It's some of the greatest joys of like, this director was a surgeon. This director was like a Judd Apatow type who's just like, yeah, improv, show me what you got. Lean into that, embrace that. That makes for some of the most interesting experiences. And any actor in any given position that you're in, it's up to you to just embrace that, take it, run with it, and be like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. Or like, wow, I think I nailed it like a pinpoint needle today. And me and the director were eye to eye. You never know what you're going to get. Just lean into that and embrace that. That's part of the exciting part of this process. So, you know, in 30 years of doing this, I've experienced everything. And it's difficult at first. But then when you experience it again and again and again, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Just lean into it and just embrace it. Thank you guys so much for tonight. I'm so appreciative. Such a wonderful, insightful, educational experience for you guys. I'm so indebted to you. Let's go for another 15 minutes just to mingle and decompress, and then I'm going to kick you the fuck out because I want to go home. But thank you all so much for tonight. I want to give a special shout out to Dia for helping me organize this. You know, again, I think networking is kind of an ugly word, but like, you know, it's just like, are you cool or are you an asshole?
Yeah.
Within 3 minutes of meeting Dia, I was like, this girl fucking
Is
rocks.
it awesome?
Within 3 minutes of meeting Dia, I was like, I love this girl. She's amazing. And we've had a great relationship ever since. I got to work with Sebastian, and within 3 minutes of meeting Sebastian, I was like, this director is awesome. I just met him. He's so great. I can tell how stressed out this environment is, and he's just handling it like a champion. I love this guy. And then Saara I met at a screening for Grant's movie, and which Dia produced. And I was
She's
like,
coming out in August.
and I was like, this girl's crazy. She's not predictable. I don't know what this girl's all about, but she's cool. And then I got to meet Sascha and Andrew tonight, and you know, just it's amazing. It's such a great, unpredictable world. Lean into that, embrace it. Just be your true selves. That's always my greatest message. And thank you, directors, for sharing your insight and talking to our actors so that I don't have to talk for once. Because coming from you, it's so valuable. So I want to give you guys a big hand. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, James, for organising this.
Yes. I really appreciate it.
To us about how this happens in the States all the time, and this kind of event doesn't happen here a lot, and you know, we're extremely grateful to have the opportunity to actually participate.
You're right, man. It
My
is a
advice
small
to
community.
actors, get the fuck out of Australia for a bit.
Yeah.
Seriously,
100%.
this industry is quite small. The UK, if you find success, you will be traveling anyway. Use every opportunity you can to like go over and see other industries as well. Australia is not just the be all and end all.
Yeah. And to contradict that, I think it's also a great time to be an Australian actor. Because so much is coming into this country all of a sudden post-COVID.
You should come back. Go overseas, do stuff, and then come back.
It's a great time to be an Australian actor.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like it's rad.
There's never been more opportunity than right now. So yeah, both are true. That's what I always say. Art is a contradiction. Everything, total opposites are true at the same time. So yeah,
Love that.
it's awesome. Thank you, everybody.